News Nation, we focus on a missing persons case from across the country, taking you behind the scenes, behind the headlines, because every missing person matters, no matter their background or their past, their race or their circumstances. They are missed by their family, their friends, their community, and sometimes by complete strangers. It is our mission to bring these cases to light with the hopes of finding answers and also offering closure. Maybe you can help us solve some of these mysteries too, by listening and being engaged in the stories. This is Missing. And today, our missing case is one we have covered before. It's been 2 years since a little girl from Tennessee vanished from her rural home. Her name is Summer Wells, and her case has captivated people across the country. We have a brand new age progression photo to share with you from the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation in this case. And this shows what Summer would likely look like today. She was 5 when she disappeared. She would be 7 years old now. All of the attention in this case has led to no tips, no leads for investigators, but it has led to harassment towards her parents, and they have been at the center of the investigation. Law enforcement remain tight-lipped about what they know and what they have as evidence, but Summer's father did sit down with News Nation recently. He maintains his innocence, and he wants to keep his daughter's story in the headlines. This is Summer Wells. The 5-year-old lived at this house in Rogersville, Tennessee, a tight-knit community of less than 5,000 people. On June 15, 2021, her parents say Summer was helping plant flowers with her mom and grandmother.
She wanted to go into the house, but watched her go through the door. And she went into the house, the boys were on the internet, of course. She wanted to go downstairs to play with her boys.
I yelled downstairs for her a couple times, and I didn't get no answer, which was unusual. And so I went down there to check, and she was nowhere inside.
2 years after her parents, Don and Candace Wells, gave those accounts, that's still all we know about the last time Summer was seen. Almost immediately, Summer's parents became the center of a police investigation.
Summer's parents, Candace and Dawn, had something to do with this, or have you ruled that out?
We haven't ruled anything out. Everything's possible.
Could she have gotten herself into a situation where it wasn't her fault, but
No.
you know what I mean?
No, she's a good mother. She loves her children. She's not going to allow any situation like that. The biggest mistake she might have made is maybe choosing some wrong friends, which is, it happens.
Don Wells pleaded guilty to driving under the influence last year. Candace also filed an order of protection against him, but asked for it to be dismissed. He now faces criminal charges in 3 states, including a domestic assault arrest in 2020. 2 years later, investigators have not charged either Don or his wife in connection to Summer's disappearance.
Everybody makes mistakes, and we all have to learn and go on. We're doing better. It's still very rough for my wife.
Don Wells sat down with News Nation to talk about where the case stands today. His wife hasn't sat down for an interview since this appearance on Dr. Phil in 2021, where she walked out of an interview in Texas.
No, I'm being interrogated again, and I don't want to do this anymore. Yes, I do.
We'll stop. I want you to feel comfortable.
Since Summer's disappearance, Don says their life has been consumed by harassment from people online who believe they're responsible for whatever happened to Summer.
Before you know it, you're getting a mob going. My wife could go to the store and somebody would scream at her, baby killer.
He sent us videos from one of his job sites where some people were demanding to speak with him about the case. Don says it's gotten so bad he had to leave the state. Now the two live in a motel in Arkansas, where Don was able to find a new job. As for Summer's case, Don says they have private investigators working with police. The Hawkins County Sheriff's Office is still working alongside the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation. Both agencies declined to give us an interview. Don says he hasn't learned anything new from police, but has always said he believes Summer was abducted. In the past, the sheriff said there's no evidence that happened.
Nothing pointing to abduction, nothing pointing to foul play, other than her walking outside the house and not being found.
There was also a key tip from a neighbor in 2021. A woman and her teen children told police they heard a scream about an hour before Summer went missing.
We
wish every day that when I heard that scream, I hadn't tried to dismiss it.
But the sheriff said after multiple interviews, that tip led nowhere. One clue they're still looking for is a pickup truck seen in the area around the time Summer vanished. It's described as a red or maroon Toyota truck with ladders on the back. Even if it's found, police aren't sure if the truck is connected to the case.
I do have hope. Whatever the outcome is, I have hope in God. One day, either sooner or later, I will be with my daughter again.
The sheriff did decline an interview in the case. He emailed us, however, saying he expects to update us on the case in the near future. In the meantime, Don and Candace have 3 boys. They have been taken by Child Services. That happened a month after Summer's disappearance. Don says they have not been allowed to talk or see their boys in half a year, but he does hope that he gets them back. I want to show you once again the age progression photo of Summer Wells, what she would look like now, as I welcome in our News Nation reporter from that area of the country, Johnson City, Tennessee, Ansley Daniel. She's been on this case since the beginning. Ansley, thank you for being here. As we look at this age progression of what Summer would look like now 2 years later, what impression are you getting from law enforcement as to why they're releasing this now, the timing of this new photo?
So the last time I spoke to TBI was via email. They are not doing any updates this year. They held a press conference last year on the 1-year anniversary. However, they did tell us that Summer would not have been eligible for an age progression photo until she had been missing for 2 years. This is through the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. They have a team of forensic artists. I actually spoke with someone from that organization yesterday. And so apparently it takes 2 years for these children to even be eligible for these photos. And unfortunately, this seems to be the only update that we're going to be getting in this case on this 2-year anniversary.
Ansley, as I said to you a moment ago when we were on the air for News Nation Live, there is so much interest in this case. As soon as we said we would be revisiting it, and it is one of the first missing cases that we covered, the emails started pouring in. People care about this case now, 2 years later, just as much as they did when Summer first went missing. I have a lot of questions from viewers, and I'm going to try to get to some of them. Some may be difficult to answer, but you were closer to the case than most. I want to begin with a question from Betty in Florida, and she says, does law enforcement have any person of interest or suspects in the case, or have they throughout the investigation any evidence discovered that supports the theory that Summer had been abducted? Can you shed any light on that question from Betty?
So since the very beginning, law enforcement said that everyone is a suspect in this case, meaning her parents, people who were close to her at church, anybody in the family, such as her grandmother, maybe even implying to other members of the family and neighbors. So again, law enforcement has not ruled anyone out 2 years later. However, nobody has been charged. So I think that that's important to kind of say both of those things, that again, everybody is on the table when it comes to being a suspect. However, 2 years later, there are no charges. Now, when it comes to the abduction theory, law enforcement has not given us any information or evidence that supports that. However, they also have not given us any evidence that goes against that claim. I do know that back a few months after Summer was reported missing, her father did take some of us out on a dog trail near their house. I'm not sure if you're familiar with this area, but where they live is very rural. They live up on top of the hill, and it's kind of hard to get to their house. However, they did say that the police dogs, that their scent of Summer kind of stopped at the end of the dog trail there. Police haven't really made a big deal about that like Summer's parents have. So unfortunately, that really led to nowhere. But when it comes to that abduction claim, again, law enforcement hasn't, gone for that, or they also haven't denied it really.
One other question that we get about possible people connected to this family is about the grandmother who was, according to reports and investigators, there the day that Summer was last seen. Evelyn from South Dakota is asking about the grandmother and what she has said about the day Summer disappeared.
So I actually interviewed the grandmother. Her name is also Candace. I interviewed her back in March of last year. That was the first time she had spoken on camera. She walked us through that day. From what I remember, she was in the hospital that morning, and they were out and about here in Kingsport, kind of the largest town near where they live, getting some medicine and things of that nature throughout the day. She told us that they ended up going back home and that she and Summer were planting flowers in her garden. She lived on the property with them at the time. And she said that Summer then went inside of the house, and Candace, her daughter, Summer's mother, asked the boys to watch her, and that was the last time she had seen Summer. They, again, have not ruled her out as not being a suspect, have not said she is a suspect, but again, they said everybody is on the table when it comes to this case. I know that there have been some questions about her grandmother leaving the state. A lot of people have asked if that was connected to this. She's been cleared to do so, according to what she told me in that interview. With the law enforcement agencies told her she was free to go as long as, she answered their phone calls when they did call. But that was the last we have heard from Summer's grandmother. When I spoke to Don last Friday, he said that she was not in Arkansas with them. He wouldn't really give me too much information about where he is. He made it seem like he didn't even know where she is. So at this point, I can't tell you where Summer's grandmother is or how connected or even disconnected she is to the case.
Understood. The other question that comes up in a lot of submissions that we're getting is echoed here in a question from Maggie from Australia, and she's asking about contact with the three boys. What more did Don say about why the boys were taken from them in the first place?
So back in the beginning when all of this happened, they were taken away about a month after Summer was reported missing. I went to some of those hearings. I was not allowed inside the courtroom, but did speak with Don and Candace afterwards. At the time, they told us that it was just because it was not safe for them to be at the home. At the time, there was a lot of YouTube speculation happening. There were a lot of people, according to them, coming onto their property and things of that nature. When I spoke with Don last week, he said that Child Protective Services made it seem that it was a little too traumatizing for them to speak with the boys. He wouldn't really elaborate on that, but that was the final statement he gave when it came to his boys. We unfortunately don't know too much about their case, where they're at, or how they're even doing, because that case is sealed, as most cases like that are. But this one has been extremely tight-lipped. Now, Don did tell me that when he was in jail, he was able to write letters and things of that nature to the boys. But he said that when he got out of jail in February of last year, I believe, was when we had that conversation. He did tell me that he hadn't heard from them since he was released from jail, and that's when all the communication stopped.
And I think the biggest thing, Ansley, as we have these discussions with Don, and we had ours as well, is the biggest question of all is, what do you think happened to your daughter? Did you have anything to do with it? When asked that question, how did he respond to you?
He continues to maintain that he and Candace believe that Summer was abducted. That is their theory. He did tell me that the two of them have kind of played the day back over and over again, and that in his mind, there's no other option that she was abducted. He said that Summer knew to not run off from the house. Again, they do live in a very wooded area. That area is hard to get to. Their house is way up on a hill. In my opinion, you have to have a reason to be going to their house. So I do, see where he might be coming from. However, law enforcement, they have not given anything to back up that claim when it comes to the abduction. The only thing we had to go off of was, like you mentioned earlier, the red truck. That hasn't really been mentioned since law enforcement put that information out. And then they also said that there were no cell phones that pinged that day. So again, it's just kind of one of those things where she really, there's just no answers 2 years later in it, and it's frustrating for all parties involved.
Yeah, and for the community members who wonder, if something like this happened, are other kids at risk, right? A very valid question. I want to get quickly to two more questions before I welcome in our next guest. I have less than 10 minutes. So I feel like I'm up against the clock. We've got so many people who want to ask questions. This is from Cassie, and she's asking specifically, Ansley, about searches inside and outside the Wells home, canines that were involved in those searches. Did any evidence turn up then or now?
Like I mentioned before, the only evidence that we were really aware of was the dog trail incident. We were told that Summer's scent stopped at the end of the dog trail there. Law enforcement did tell us that there was a change in pavement to wooded area. So sometimes the dogs can react to the change in pavement. Obviously, there's going to be different scents when it comes to pavement and wooded areas. So again, that's really the main piece of evidence that we have from law enforcement. But like I mentioned before, they've been really quiet since the 1 year anniversary. It's been very difficult to get in touch with the sheriff in the case. We've been reaching out to the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation. We've had a few email responses, but they declined all of our asking for interviews. So it's been, like I said, kind of difficult when it comes to the evidence in this case. Law enforcement just hasn't really told us much, and they say that when they have something, they'll let us know.
Did the parents and any other family members take a polygraph early on in the investigation?
We were told in the beginning that both of her parents took a polygraph. If I'm not mistaken, I do believe her grandmother also told me that she took a polygraph test as well. They told us that they all came back clean. So I'm not sure about her brothers. Obviously, her brothers are juveniles, so they wouldn't release that information to us anyways. But as of now, I do know that Dawn and Candace and her grandmother did all pass their polygraph test in the beginning of this case.
Well, the interest in Summer's disappearance has not dwindled. Even 2 years later, there are so many people who care about this little girl. Ansley Daniel with our station in Johnson City, Tennessee. I know that you will continue to update us as you get more information. We will continue to stay on it. Thank you for your time. We're not done talking about this. I want to welcome in Chris McDonough now. He's a former homicide detective with 13 years experience in that field. He's also a podcaster. He went into the Wells home after Summer Wells disappeared to look at the circumstances in which she was living, and he is with us now on the phone. Chris, thank you for being with us. As you're listening to my conversation with Ansley, and I do want to highlight, we've got so many people sending me questions about this case. What stands out to you from an investigative standpoint, that a stone that may still be left unturned?
You know, Marty, what stands out to me right now is the fact that Hawkins County has said they're going to give an update soon. So what that indicates is this has been an active investigation, very tight-lipped, behind the scenes, with probably FBI, TBI, and of course Hawkins County at the point. So there is something going on that the sheriff felt that he would say something, but just not yet. So that tells me that this case is definitely headed for some type of revelation.
And what do you make of a newly released time progression, age progression photo that they put out, the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation put out as recently as a day ago? Here, we're showing that on our screen for our viewers.
Yeah, I think that is great because obviously that is a protocol from Nick, the missing and exploited NCMEC, right? And so when they do that, it's just in case the child is out there due to the Amber Alert. And, if somebody sees that child, they want to obviously put out the most current potential, view of what she would look like.
I think the thing that so many people have a hard time reconciling is she was on her property, her family was around, her mom and grandma were there, her brothers were there reportedly, and she just vanishes. There's no evidence of an abduction that took place. The dogs picked up a scent. What do you pick up on based on what evidence has been released publicly that just is peculiar that sticks in your mind?
Well, I think, the first thing that everybody has to consider is what they call the victim risk continuum. The 5-year-olds just don't vanish from their basements. And suspects don't take that type of risk as well. If this is a stranger abduction, then the suspect is going to weigh out his risk to go up into that property, and the stars align where a 5-year-old is in a basement. So right away, the authorities, when they went up on that property, that's the information that they were faced with, that this was, from the parents, a stranger abduction. Well, statistically, when you measure that against the victim risk continuum, where you look at low, medium, and high risk, environment, situation, and circumstance, this is a very low risk situation, almost like an Elizabeth Smart, where she's asleep in her bedroom. Well, this is a 5-year-old in a basement. And so that victim risk continuum tells the authorities there is a higher probability that the suspect was known to the property and or is part of the property, and it could potentially be involved in the disappearance of this child.
I want to point out to people, and some of the video we've seen on the screen has been yours. You toured this home and went into this peculiar kind of basement bedroom situation where Summer was living, where she slept. Explain to us what you saw when you were there 2 years ago.
Well, you know, when I went into the property at the invitation of Mom, and the first thing that struck me, obviously, was this was no type of living conditions for any children at all. I mean, it was very difficult, but, you know, my experience is, you know, 25 years in law enforcement and as a homicide investigator, I'd seen this many, many times before. However, when she showed me how to get into the basement, that struck me as a possibility of could something have happened on the stairwell going down into that basement with a 5-year-old. Because Mom says the child went into the basement through that stairwell. When I got into that stairwell, it was dark. And you go down into this basement area, and it felt, you know, it was dark. It was moldy in terms of the mist. There were disheveled beds in there on both sides. And it really struck me is what this child was facing. And that also gave me a better indication of why Child Protective Services may have been involved from the get-go.
One thing that both Don said, I don't know that Candace ever said this, but he was criticized for saying it, and it raised a lot of questions, was that maybe Candace had made some bad friends, some people that she shouldn't have been hanging out with that they welcomed into their lives. Did she talk about that when you had a conversation with her, and in the months subsequently, why he would say that?
You know, she didn't mention that, and I don't recall him saying that to me, Marty, but, you know, Candace, when I spoke to her, she was telling things, I thought, at some point from her heart. But at the same time, my experience also told me she was not being 100% truthful, and there was just something more there. I don't know what that is, if this was an accident, if this was, you know, something that they knew, somebody they knew, and, you know, that type of situation. So it's a real mystery at this point, but I suspect the authorities are going to unwind it, and we'll see some, you know, things taking place in the near future.
That is my hope and prayer, Chris, that this comes to a resolution and that little girl is out there somewhere alive and we can find her safely. Chris McDonough, former homicide detective, thank you for your time and your insight in this case. Also to Ansley Daniel with our station in Johnson City, Tennessee. To you for the many questions and your concern about Summer Wells. Once again, the age progression photo of Summer. She would now be 7 years old. Police just releasing that this week in the case. If you want more information on her disappearance and the case, you can go to newsnationnow.com. We'll be back with another missing case next week. And if you have information that can help authorities in this one, please call the number on your screen. I'm Marty Hughes in Chicago. This is Missing.
All right, everybody, that's News Nation Now. Feel free to go back for the replay to watch the broadcasts, and I also will have a photo progression on the thumbnail of this video after I upload this live stream. Thank you for joining the Vault XL. Let's do a replay of what was said during this commentary, and I will drop the link after I give my commentary. Thank you for joining me. If you'd like to donate to this great network, $BeGanji 129 Cash App. Stickers and chats are welcome during the live stream. Abduction foul play was on the top of the screen pertaining to Summer Wells. So now are you all saying that it wasn't foul play? Because it was abduction, then comma, foul play. So is the TBI and Sheriff Lawson saying that this is not an abduction and also not foul play. So if you rule out abduction and you also rule out foul play, the only thing left would be sold, human traffic by the parents. And to me, if they sold the child, to me, that's still foul play because it's illegal to sell a human being. And the other option would also be accident and then discard it. So I'm confused at the message you all are trying to send during this commentary. And naturally, they haven't spoken. So we're only going by what was put on the screen for this broadcast. The Wells have received a lot of harassment, says this news reporter. Well, one could say you received harassment because of your behavior after the fact of the child going missing and also your boy children being removed from your care by the Department of Human Services, Child Services. You go to Facebook, YouTube, all these different entities, vow, going on live broadcasts, which to me is not the appropriate thing to do due to the fact the people who you were choosing to talk to and speak to. Most people will choose radio broadcasts, local newspapers, and local stations and national stations to get the word out about their missing child, deceased child, so on and so forth. But you all chose to go to YouTube, which I'm a YouTuber, and I still would say there's certain people you should not be talking to on their network about anything, but to each its own. But if you are serious about trying to find your child, you should choose wisely the people you are going to try to get the message out. I'm not just going to go to any old hee-haw person to talk about my missing kid, my dead mother, whomever. I want to choose wisely the person I'm going to deliver the message. And you all didn't do that. And the fact that, Mr. Wells, you have been very vile on the network, using very derogatory language in describing people, that doesn't sound like a person that cares about their children to me. And I think everything is self-evident in your behavior. The fact that you don't have your boy children back. You can't give a straight answer, really, what happened to why they came in your house. Oh, it wasn't safe. Well, that's an easy cop-out to say, oh, it wasn't safe. Well, we know this. And as you hear Mr. McDonough say, it wasn't an appropriate place by his standards and possibly others for a place for children to be raised. But we're never going to know the truth to why the children were removed because, one, the state never discusses business about kids. That's just common sense. And the police aren't going to give that information, even if they know it, because once again, it's private information. So why were the children removed from your care, Mr. and Mrs. Wells? Because why would you want to just give your boys up? Because we can assume 1,000 things of why you all would want that little girl gone. And even though we didn't know you at the time, we know more about you now, things we shouldn't know about you. But this is what happens when people are in vile situations. As Mr. McDonough says, the living conditions of the house, you got a glimpse into the life of a child and her brothers and the two adults. And it isn't a standard living situation. Thank you, Jenny. It's not your standard situation. So then your mind starts to wonder, my goodness, what happened with this kid, these children? What were they enduring? What type of life? And you all played all that out on YouTube, you know, being inebriated, using foul language, different people coming out telling different stories about Candace, this and that. You gave us a glimpse, whether we believe it or not. It was not a positive glimpse into the life of grown people and small children. So you all didn't exemplify what I would believe to be caring adults and adults that need to have children. Because the old adage is you lead by example. You all are not leaders. You're followers. You're doing what everybody else does, or the norm, let's say, or the underbelly. You're just doing anything. So you don't have the right to have children because you can't take care of yourselves. Move to Arkansas, staying in a hotel. How long are they going to be there? How long have they been there? Do they ever plan to move back? What are they going to do with their house? They're going to sell their house, or are they behind on their bills at the house? We know that Mr. Wells went to jail for some time, got out, boom, 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 can't find work here because of the harassment and people yelling at the wife. Oh, they're calling her a baby killer, blah, blah, blah. Yes, that is cruel to say such things when we don't have evidence to the contrary. But, I'm going to say it again. Your behavior on social media helps exacerbate being harassed. You see, you have to know the steps that you're making in this world. And if you're out here doing felonious behavior, getting in trouble, getting drunk, getting DUIs, buying drugs, selling drugs, doing crazy stuff while your child is missing, while your other children are in foster care. Let me say that again. Your children are in foster care. Your daughter's allegedly missing. Why would you want to be out here giving people something to talk about, gossip about, assume about you? You lead by example, but you can't lead because you're a follower. Followers, Mr. and Mrs. Wells. You haven't showed people you care about yourself. So therefore, if you can't care for self, you can't care for itty bitty spiders. Checkmate. You have exacerbated the gossip and the harassment, in my opinion. Agencies have declined to give any type of interview pertaining to the disappearance of Summer Wells. Update coming soon, said Sheriff Lawson. When might that be, Sheriff Lawson? What evidence do you have, Mr. Lawson, pertaining to the disappearance of Summer Wells? Will you all ever speak on suspects, evidentiary material, the red truck, the pavement comment, what you believe happened to Summer Wells? Why not just tell us a little something? But then once again, it's an open investigation. So as they say, police talk, we have to keep some things to the vest. Indeed. But I always say, drop a few little breadcrumbs so the suspects can shake in their boots a little bit. And it's not to say that he or she or they won't get comfortable. Whoever has done something nefarious or felonious with the child. But oh my, how one might feel if he or she or they believe they are suspects and do not know the day that you all are going to knock on their door and arrest them. Where is Summer Wells? And will the truth ever be revealed about where she is and what happened to her? Accident, sold, harmed, discarded, accident, discarded, kidnapped. You also hear in this commentary, ducked off in the middle of nowhere. No one has any reason to be going up this broke up driveway. So why would somebody be going up there? To take a child. Abduction, foul play ruled out allegedly. Haven't talked or seen the boys in a year and a half at the beginning of the commentary. And then you have Ansley coming in later saying 6 months from the time Don got out of jail. So was that also implying Candace as well? Did Candace ever write to children? Because you hear that in this commentary by Miss Ansley when she comes in at the end of the interview of this commentary. Don was writing the boys while incarcerated, stopped after he got out of jail, which was last February or whatever, last year he got out. Well, he went in February, and got out in the fall of last year. So I'd like to know, was the mother talking to the children? Or did DHS decide to stop all contact? Because naturally, I would assume the letters would go to the DHS office, and then the DHS office would give the letters to the children. Or did the foster parents intervene, not give the letters to the children? Or the children decided they no longer wanted to contact their parents or talk to their parents? What is the truth about the contact? And the real reason that they were taken, did they comply, not comply? Have the children's rights been severed? Have their rights been severed from their children, the Wells? And why didn't you fight for your boys? Because see, my right mind would tell me, that thing called intuition, my gut, says that possibly you did favor boys, maybe over the girl child, and she was the ultimate sacrifice to just have the boys alone. But you see, the devil doesn't work in the order that you want him to work. Let me make that clear. You see, working for the devil, he doesn't pay you anything. So therefore, he's got to also double back. Oh, you didn't know that, did you? That when you work for the devil, he will also spin another hand and slap you on the back and say, yeah, I'm not really done with you. Such as, allegedly, get rid of the girl child just to have the boy children, but then the other sacrifices, the boy children are taken by the state. As they say in the streets, even swap ain't no swindle. And yes, they have lost all of their children between both of them in different relationships, which is a precursor for what happened in Rogersville 2 years ago. Stay woke now. Hello, Brittany. You've had vile relationships with other parties, drug, DHS involved, and yet these two people meet in the universe to only repeat what happened in their other relationships. You don't find that strange. Thanks for mentioning that. Because that wasn't mentioned in News Nation Now commentary. Why is that? But I'm glad some people asked the questions they asked and Miss Ansley tried to answer them, because many people have lots of questions pertaining to this storyline. What evidence does the TBI and the Sheriff's Department have? 2 years before age progression can be done on a said child, I guess, in this state. And this is regression you see in the news commentary. If the child is alive, does she look anything similar to that age progression? And in my opinion, the age progression makes them look a little bit older than 7. Living in Arkansas. Why Arkansas? Of all the states to choose. Will they return back to the house? Where is Granny? You hear Ansley say she's free to roam at the time that she last talked to her by Sheriff's Department. Just pick up your phone when we call, blah, blah, blah. So where is Granny? What does she know about the disappearance of Summer? This business of planting flowers, which most of us do not believe, because I didn't see a garden up there by that trailer that she was living in, just potted plants. Now, maybe in her world, that is considered a garden, to each its own, but that's not what I would call a garden. Plants just in a pot. And I do not believe they were planting flowers. I don't believe any of the story pertaining to the disappearance of Summer Wells, because as I've always told you, when it comes to true crime and just generalizations of being breathing, everything's a version. This is the version I told TBI. This is the version I told the sheriff. This is the version I told WJHL. But that does not mean it is the truth. Does not mean it's the truth. What I told you, what I told you, what I told you, that does not mean it is the truth. What I said. So I don't believe there was a garden. Didn't see it. So I don't believe that you were planning anything. Come on now. See, wording is everything. It is key to the truth. And as I've always said, that the truth is at the beginning of the story, because that is where the story starts. Not the middle, not the end, but at the beginning. So you look at everything said, what's not said, body language, eye movement, who all is giving commentary, contradictory commentary. That is where you will find the answers to the story. Is Granny speaking to these people? Her child, husband? What is the relationship between she? Did she ever have contact with the boys when they left? So I ask all the questions. Rarely do I get an answer, though. Where is Granny and where is she living? Here in the South, up north? Where is she staying? Does she plan to stay up north, if indeed she's up north living, Wisconsin, wherever? This storyline is sick to me, because to me it's filled with lies. And although we hear Ansley talk about polygraphs at the end of this commentary. I've never heard anything about a polygraph. I never heard law enforcement ever say, yes, these two took a polygraph. This one took a polygraph. So I'm going to ask, did all three parties take a polygraph? Grandis, Candace, and Mr. Don. She says they passed it at the beginning of the story. Now, Ansley, what does that mean? At the beginning of the story. Because we know that the greatest of liars can pass a polygraph. And usually they are not admitted in court, so it doesn't really matter if you passed it or didn't pass. It's just a helping tool to help the investigation. Let me see where we stand with this one, this one, this one. Okay? But it doesn't mean anything in a court of law. Did all three take the polygraph and did they pass them? And if they did pass them, did law enforcement believe the information and passed? Okay? Pig party. They're harassing us. We had to move, blah, blah, blah. But as I said, Mr. Wells, you and your wife exacerbated this. You were more vocal than Candace, but you don't seem like grieving parents. Parents lost a child, looking for a child. You never helped in the searches. You never ate anything. You never offered coffee cakes, coffee, donuts, stood at the line where they search. Let me go run over here. Oops, they're over here 6 months later. Let me go over here. You didn't show that you were inclined to help the kids. So, are you grieving? Or have you just moved on? Accepted what has happened, whether you know what happened or not, a party to what happened or not to the child. You've accepted your fate as of now. We've moved on. We don't got no children. We're living in Arkansas in a hotel. We're just doing us. And exactly what are they doing down there? What line of work has Mr. Wells found? Is Candace working? Do they still have the same automobiles? What's really going on with these two? What is really going on with these two? Are they still drinking, using drugs, getting in trouble, picking up wrong types of friends? You also hear that mentioned. As Mr. Madonna says, he didn't hear those words exacted by Mr. Wells to him directly about Candace's choice of friends, but it was mentioned in a news interview or some commentary. Don mentioned that. So is it somebody that knows Candace took the child? But how would that happen without her knowledge? How would someone get up on that hill, take the child, any child? And the one thing that people don't fail to think about is that children were in that house alone all day. So if someone was out wanting to take children, they had ample enough time to get 3 little boys. I'll wait. So even if I want to go with this polygraph business they passed, you still can't explain what's obvious, which is that children were already there while one was gone with the mother, allegedly, most of the day. So if I'm out looking for children, why did I wait for that specific one to take when 3 were already alone in the house? Robin, get a grip. I'm not interested in the shenanigans today, honey. Take it somewhere else. No garden, potted plants, more lies, no suspects verified by TBI or law enforcement to say, yes, I believe this one's a suspect, this one's a suspect. I think that's what most of us would want to hear. But naturally, they don't want to give away the said information. Granny cleared, as per information from Miss Ansley. She said she talked to Don last week. He really couldn't give her any information on Granny and where she lives. Why is that? Why were the boys removed? Let Don tell it wasn't a safe place. So see, as I said, that's a way to push it up under the rug. Well, I and Candy felt like they should be gone. Hey, DHS, come take our children. They're not safe here. People are stalking us, bothering us. Well, that was really only 1 month later from when the little girl went missing. She went missing on June 15th, allegedly. The children were removed at the end of July. So you're only talking about a month and 2 weeks. The barrage of harassment, I don't think really started 1.5 months in. Because most of us didn't even have any idea about the children, Don or Summer or Candace or anybody. So I don't believe that. I believe you don't want to acknowledge the state made the decision to remove your boys. And I don't know if something happened after Summer's disappearance or where you got crunk in that house, because a lot of us have questioned the reasoning why the state would have let the boys stay in the house a month and a half later after Summer went missing, after seeing the conditions, as Mr. Madonna has said in this commentary. The conditions didn't look good for raising the child, going through the middle of the floorboards in the kitchen to go downstairs, dark, gloomy, moldy. What the hell took you so long to let these boys stay in the house? And that would lead us to wonder what type of shenanigans has been going on with the state, sheriff, and this and that you thought it was okay to let them stay there 1 month and a day, 1 day, 2 days. Why? You saw what the house looked like. You saw the property. But 1.5 months later, you take the boys. Why? I want to know why. Because everything is still the same. The parents are still the same. The property is still the same. What? Nothing vainglorious on that property would lead me to say, return them. And then you got to do your part to get your children back. And I don't think they did their part to sustain a sober living house, comply with classes, this and that. No. Because you have one child missing. Why wouldn't you do what you need to do to get your other children back, Don and Candace? And before Don went to jail, he was out free for months. And he and Candy both should have done what they needed to do to get their children back. But you see, you would only do what you want to do, not what you need to do, because there's a difference between needing and wanting. It's called obligations. Well, I'm not really obligated to the boys either. So it really wouldn't have mattered if they favored the boys or not. They weren't good enough to get them back. Checkmate. You love your kids, but you won't fight to get them back, and you got one missing. Why not? Why not fight for the ones that you have been severed from? So have they been severed rightfully by the state of Tennessee? And what was the real reason they were removed? Living conditions, tips from the public, he said, she said, failed drug tests, incident that took place after the information went to the public about the little girl missing. What was the real reason the boys were removed 1 month later? Red truck, active, a part of investigation or not? Who gave the tip? Why did somebody give the tip of the red truck? And is the TBI sheriff's office still looking for this red truck? Summer scent stops at the dog trail. We heard that information from Mr. Wells. Mr. Lawson said something about the pavement. So what is that all about? Was the child playing in the road and abducted, played in the road, got hit, hurt? They took her, discarded her to family. But then naturally you leave remnants behind because you're always going to leave something behind. And one thing you can't cover up is blood. Even if you go out there with a pail of bleach water, hot water, the blood still has to run somewhere. So was the child out playing with her brothers and sisters or other friends, cousins? Somebody came by, saw the little girl walking, playing, swooped her up, took her on. Violated the child, killed her, buried her somewhere, sold her, or has her hiding somewhere here in America. Once again, polygraphs by all three. Allegedly, they all passed. I don't know what's the truth or not. We hear from Mr. Chris Madonna pertaining to the possibility of an abduction, and he believes it's a connection to the house and or the family, the property. He realized it wasn't a home for kids when he went to that said property to interview the family. He talks about how the stairs are made to go down into the basement from the kitchen. He was wondering if perhaps there was a stair accident. Her living conditions were not up to par, and possibly this was the reason why DHS got involved. We also hear again about Candy's friends, and he says he had no mention of that per Don Wells. But we did hear of that in an interview where he mentioned that possibly some of Candy's friends may be involved in the abduction or whatever could have happened to the child. He believes that some things said by Candace were from the heart and that some things she was not truthful about. What were those things, Mr. Chris Madonna? He believes authorities will unwind it. And when might that be? Many people have tried to talk to these people or attempted to talk to these people. Candy running off on an interview with this behavior panel. I don't get into all of that hype, behavior panels and this and that, Dr. Phil, because I know people will play up on these people's emotions and try to make them feel like they're in their corner. I'm supporting you. I believe what you say when you know damn well you don't believe none of that shit they didn't say it. I said that. You have to say that because if I start the interview off with, I don't believe what you're saying, after letting you talk for 15, 20 minutes, then hell yeah, you're going to be ready to run off the stage. So we questioned when she ran off, crying and fumbling with the microphone and all of that nonsense. You know what you were getting into, Candy, when you went out there to do the interview. Why would you want to run off the stage? See, this is childish behavior. And this is not behavior of somebody trying to get information out about their kid. You want us to believe you're just so emotional after flying all the way halfway across the country to do an interview, and then all of a sudden you're mic'd up. They start asking you questions. Now you want to pull off microphones and run out and do all this other type of theatrics. These people are made for each other, Candy and Don. They're two peas in a pod. They're made for one another. I do not know what happened to the child. I do not know if she's alive or she's deceased. I do not know if she's buried somewhere out there in the Beach Creek community, Kingsport, East Tennessee, North Carolina, Georgia. I don't know. But the behavior of the family, it is my red flag. When you show that you do not care for one, yourself, you do not care for the living conditions of your children, you tell me a lot about who you are. The fact you never searched for your child, the many times that the rescue squad came to search for the child, you never showed up once to aid, offer coffee, soda pop, Mountain Dew, a shot of whiskey. You see where I'm going. Yeah, little slick joke from the Queen. You're not showing me you care. And we have learned in this type of business of true crime, everybody grieves differently. Everybody talks differently, acts differently. Some cry, some don't. Some show emotion, some don't. But I'm just a realist. At some point, there needs to be some breaking down, falling out on the damn floor, acting like you care. That's just me. Show me you care about your missing child. Show me you want to get your boys back. A year and a half, and we're really approaching 2 years because it is now the month of June. We're in the middle of June. Next month will be 2 years the boys were removed from their care. You want me to believe that they will still have rights to the child? Hell no. Because once you stop complying, you stop talking to the children, you stop calling the children, you make no provisions to visit the children, DHS, they're not going to chase you about your children. They don't have to. Because that's not their job. They're not in the chasing mommy and daddy business. They're in the business of taking care of your child until you get your shit together to go get your children back. That's DHS's job. I'm not going to chase you about your kid. Hey, you ain't called in 5 days. Hey, you didn't show up for the visit. Hey, you didn't show up for the classes you were supposed to take. Hey, you failed the drug test. That's not my job. Chase you. You ought to want your children back. You ought to want to find your missing child. How about that? So when I see you not searching for your missing child, you up on YouTube hooping and hollering and cussing and calling people dirty names, derogatory names, drunk, belligerent, getting in trouble with the law, breaking the law, getting DUIs, and stayed in trouble with law enforcement in the past. You've lost your children in other relationships. Why in the hell would I think you cared about the one that's missing? That's probably why she's missing, because you didn't care about her. And the 3, you ain't done what you need to do to get them back. Checkmate. You see, everything's in your actions. So in the end, hell no, I don't need you to say anything. I'm looking at what you're doing. And you are showing me, an innocent bystander, law enforcement, Pookie, Ray Ray, the neighbor, you don't care about yourself. And you don't care about your children. That is the reason why one's missing, possibly deceased, and the others are in the state's care. Do the children even want to go back to these people? And when you look at how most of us live, warm beds, nice linen, refrigerator with food, working stove, rooms with doors, toilets, tubs, running water, hot water, bath towels, toothbrush, toothpaste. You see where I'm going with this, right? Heat, air, who the hell want to forfeit that for back there on Ben Hill? Nobody. The only person that would want that life is somebody who's been destitute most of their life, and they don't give a damn where they live or where they stay. Possibly somebody homeless would say, yeah, I'd stay here. But that's not everybody else's attitude. The children did deserve better. And when you hear Chris Madonna talk about going down that trap door, stairs, it's self-explanatory. That's no way for anybody to go to and fro inside of a house. The outside was deplorable. The inside, deplorable. Not cohesive for walking around and moving about comfortably. They didn't have to live like that, but they chose to. You want to live like that single, that's your prerogative. But when you're raising children, you should care enough about your children to say, I want doors on the rooms, bathrooms, closets, bedrooms. I want the children to be able to move about cohesively in a safe manner. Care enough about your children or don't have them. Where is Summer Wells? Is she alive? Is she deceased? Was she hurt, harmed by her own parents, family members, friends of the family, people that they hung around? Was there an accident at the house? Did she actually return to the property? Was she hurt by her brothers and didn't discard it? Hurt by her parents, discarded. Both parents hurt her. One parent hurt her. Cover up by another parent. Cover up with the grandmother. What happened to Summer Wells? And will FBI, TBI, Sheriff's Department give us a glimpse into a suspect? Polygraphs. Come on out and just tell it now so everybody can quit making up stuff and assuming. Just tell us something. I will now drop the link. Thank you for joining me. Many of you are shocked that this case has gone on as far as it has gone. None of us assumed we would be at year 2, but that just goes to show you how time flies. And in that time, so many people have gone missing and have been found deceased, including adults and children alike. And naturally, none of us want to ever hear that Summer Wells is deceased, but the truth needs to be revealed because this is too long not having any viable information to the whereabouts of this said child. If you have never spoken on this network, Feel free to hit the link. It will be in the chat, starting with the HTTPS : so on and so forth. You do not have to show yourself, but you need to turn your microphone on. You need to have a clear background, no noise, no radios, no TVs playing, no dogs barking, nothing to block out what you have to say in your commentary. Please be respectful to the hostess and the viewing audience. Thank you for your time. 49 viewing. The commentary you heard at the beginning of this live stream is from News Nation Now. Feel free to go into the YouTube queue to listen to the commentary from the beginning to the end. Miss Ansley is speaking from a local news station here in East Tennessee, and also Chris Madonna. Hello, everybody in the chat. Thank you for joining me. That's my said commentary. I'm 1 hour into this live stream. Make this live count. Like, share, subscribe. Share it to other platforms. Please go to my community board to check out my commentary, where I play a year-old interview between Mr. Brian Enton and Donald Wells. I have an endless amount of videos in the thousands. Please check out the YouTube queue for said commentary on Summer Wells and other breaking news and true crime. Any takers? Hit the link. Be heard. Hello, Brittany. Where are you calling me from?
North Carolina.
Well, welcome, dear. How are you?
And I'm not new. I still had to hit the link. Well, you said you wanted new people, but I can't be quiet on this
one. I appreciate it, but I still want to let everybody know where you're from. For those who do not watch this network or did not know where you're from, did you listen to the commentary from the reporter and Ansley and Mr. Chris Madonna?
Yes.
And what do you have to say of their commentary?
I think a little of it is some BS. I think it was good. I'm glad they, had Ansley on and Chris McDonough to kind of clear some things up. But,
what was BS?
The little incident, and I don't agree with the incident that happened with him losing his job, where they showed the little video of people outside his job. But he didn't.
Oh, but you know one thing she forgot to tell us? She forgot to tell the viewing audience that was with YouTubers.
Yeah, and it was also like almost a year before
they were generalizing the harassment, basically.
Right. I mean, he's just recently, in the past few months, moved out of state. There was really no harassment that I'm aware of that after he got out of jail. It's just a bunch. It's, blame YouTube. They're always the victim. It's just a joke.
That's what I said. The pity party is sad to me because you don't tell your part. You just say, well, she can't go to the store. She's called a baby killer, blah, blah, blah. But why don't you tell what you've been doing in the time that your children have been missing and gone? Why don't you tell that you've been on social media making a donkey's ass out of yourself and your wife, both of you on live streams, drunk and inebriated, calling people derogatory names? Why don't you tell that part, and then maybe people will see why you and your wife are harassed? We know that people are going to harass you even if you didn't go to social media. But the point is, when you put yourself out there to go on and act a fool, you're asking for trouble. You're asking for people to follow you. You're asking for people to message you on social media and say nasty things to you. You are egging them on.
Right. And he continues to do it. It's not like
that's not right. It's not
off social media.
Yeah, it's not a mute point. Yeah.
It's just... it's sad. I mean, we all talk about Summer all the time, and That's the one case I always follow and can't let go of. But it really hit me yesterday to see that image. It was just like,
Yeah. How do you feel about the age? And one thing before I get into that, still feel they should have mentioned that as a commentary. If you're going to say they're being harassed, why don't you show their behavior and maybe people can get a glimpse to say, oh, I see why some people might be reacting to these people in this negative manner. Look at how he acts on social media, but naturally they're not going to play all that filth on a news broadcast. But somebody needs to show something to show these are not right fighters and these are not caring people who lost their children.
I mean,
Now,
right. He goes from using the bathroom on the
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Show this to the world, and then people can say, well, I don't know if I'd be doing that, and I'm trying to find my kid. So let's talk about the age progression. Do you like that age progression or not?
I do think I'm trying to be positive about it because it is nice to have something because she is younger. And I, was watching a few things yesterday and a lot of people were mentioning, the age from 5 to 7.
Yeah.
So I really did go look at pictures of my son from 5 to 7.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a big difference that my son changed into.
Okay.
However, I think that she does look a lot older.
Yeah, she looks very old to me. I agree.
But I do feel that it gives a good representation of how her face may look, because in my opinion, it looks a lot like the older brother and a lot like Candace.
Yes, it does.
So I don't know. I'm just trying to be positive about it. It's good to have something out there. They also mentioned that they only do them something like every 2 years. So I guess she won't have another one for every 2 years, which is kind of concerning because 2 years from now, I don't know what they're going to make her look like.
2 years from the abduction.
Right. So.
Had to be missing 2 years.
Right. So yeah, I think it kind of gives a good example. Because she definitely would look different. But, that's one thing I've always went back to as far as the Amber Alert anyways. I never felt they wanted her found. Look at the image that was on the Amber Alert.
Mm-hmm.
She had no hair. The Amber Alert, she has this, this pretty blonde hair, this little dress on. That's not what she looked like when she went missing. It's not. And that was always so strange to me. And it was also strange that, once they received other photos that they didn't update it. I just thought that was odd. I know, when the hair is shaved, it will grow fast, but she looked nothing like that.
Let me read Lynn's comment. The picture of Summer looks like she's going to high school in September.
I would say she looks around 12.
Yeah, she looks older. Face plumper. Still looks like a face of an older kid than 7.
Yeah, I agree.
They do whatever I guess they can with what they have as far as family dynamics, genetics, and that's what they came up with. But
yeah,
you look at a lot of pictures of her. She looks different in a lot of her photos from 2 up to 5.
And she was very small and fragile looking, really.
And you have to ask yourself that, would she even have a plump looking face at 7 due to the fact of how she was raised?
I don't know.
So you have to think about things like that when you make an age progression. This child wasn't fed properly by her parents. That's obvious. And it's not to say she couldn't have had weight on her, but I'm going to go with the latter and say no.
Yeah, they're the experts. I'm not, so I don't know how. I definitely feel like she looks older, and I'm not. But I think it could give a good, representation of how she may somewhat look. Because comparing the two, does not look the same at all.
Well, let me ask you something.
Uh-huh.
Do you believe the child was abducted by an outside party?
No.
Do you believe she ever made it home that day?
Yes.
What do you believe happened when she got home?
I believe it was some sort of accident cover-up.
Okay. By whom?
Her mother.
Okay.
Possibly with the help of her father.
And what do you believe happened?
I don't know. I don't necessarily think that they did something to her. I don't know.
So you believe it's just the mother, and then it got covered up with the husband and grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
Do you believe she told her mother what happened before her husband?
Yeah, I believe they all know for sure.
But I'm saying, do you believe the grandmother knew before Don?
Probably so, because she was
Okay.
there.
Okay.
Yeah, and yeah, I believe that she definitely knows. I mean, but at times I've questioned of whether the boys ever seen her. I've wondered, if when they got
So I say
home,
it's 1,000 questions you can ask.
yeah, if they got home that day, they took the picture of her sleeping in the car. Was she sleeping and they didn't get her out, and they went back and she was deceased and she freaked out. I don't know.
Why were the boys removed?
Oh God, a million reasons.
Yeah, but let's think about the obvious. They were there for a month and a half. That's not common when you have a missing child and you believe that somebody is done something with her, whether it be the people at the property or people that came to the property or just an abduction. Usually, under the conditions of how that house looked, the children would have been removed that night. So why were they still there a month and a half?
Possibly developments in Summer's case within that 6-week time frame caused them to remove the kids.
Yeah, but I'm saying with the way the house looks, sweetheart,
Mm-hmm.
and then you usually run background checks on the family. Why would you leave the children there 1 month later?
I don't know.
I find that strange. Now, I'm not saying children don't stay with their family with one missing, of course, in certain cases. But when you see the conditions of the house day one, if you did a thorough background check on the parents, any other type of DHS involvement with them, you wouldn't have left the children there. That's why I always question if indeed there was even an open case or any past grievances with DHS with complaints. Because why would I leave these boys here if there were problems with these people, DHS? See, that makes no sense. I'm not going to leave these kids here and I have an open case on you.
Right. And I don't know if they had an open case. I mean, it is strange to me they weren't taken sooner.
Yeah, I couldn't see that. No, I can't believe no viable office would leave children with a family and they have an open case on them. That makes no sense.
I mean, and I don't know exactly how that works, but I would assume that, the day that she went missing, that CPS would be called out there. Is that when they?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I don't know.
Saw
That's
how
odd.
you're living outside and inside, and naturally, all children are removed because of the way certain properties and houses look. But I personally would have done it once I got there and saw how it looked. Ran a background check on the parents. Also did a DHS file to see if they had any open cases. That's why I said something was never right when everybody kept running around saying they had an open case, They got rid of her because she was getting ready to go to school and somebody essayed her, blah, blah, blah. That makes no sense for me to leave her other siblings there if that is what you're trying to portray. And you don't have a receipt to that because that's not information you would have anyway.
Right.
You're not going to have information about an open CPS case. The only way you would have that verified is if she told you or Don told you.
Mm-hmm.
And they have an open case, blah, blah, blah. They never told you they had an open case. I've never heard, in all the times he's talked, I've never heard they said they had an open case.
I don't believe they were taken because YouTubers coming up there, like he said.
No, I don't believe that. See, that's why I said he downplays everything. The harassment, it wasn't safe for them, all that. Tell the truth of why the boys were removed. My understanding is that something happened in that time frame for the boys to be removed. I can't remember if they said he got drunk. He had a drunk incident. He told somebody on a live stream he had gotten inebriated. Don't quote me. But something happened allegedly. And then next thing you know, the boys were removed.
Yeah, and that's probably right. I could see that happening. I mean, because, just in these 2 years, I can think of so many different incidents that have happened, even since the boys have been gone. So I'm sure, there was all kinds of things going on up there. They're strange. They are the strangest. If, in fact, it comes out.
But really, they're typical.
But are they?
If you ever lived around certain type of people, see, this is what I tell people. everybody don't live the same kind of life. I can hear of how people live. I can see documentaries of how people live. I can pass people in the street, get an assumption of how I think they live. I can hear news stories about how people live. But if I'm not in that world, if I'm not in that circle of people, I'm really never going to have an idea of what that is like. I, as the queen, I've been around all types of people. I've been around the Wales type of people. I've been around, you know, the crazy baby mamas, baby daddies, unfit baby daddies, drunkards, drug heads, crackheads, doctors, lawyers, engineers. Queen has been around all types of people. I've been in all types of people's homes. So I know how people live. If you've never been around that world, you don't know nothing about that world. You understand what I'm saying? You have no idea that that is the norm out here. Sadly.
I guess, I mean,
it's
more
50-50, middle class, working class, and the underbelly.
I guess I mean more of their the aftermath of since she's been gone. Not necessarily.
There's other people who still behave just the same. You just don't hear about it every day.
And, you know, and I think that's, you know, a lot of everybody is so interested. I mean, of course they're interested because this child is missing. But you know, there's never been a case that I can think of that I have followed where you have the parents, you know, hitting the links and doing all this crazy stuff. So it's made it a lot more, you know, interesting for people to
sensationalize. Yeah.
But just the way they act, you know, I couldn't imagine. I mean, God forbid my kid ever went missing to start with. I don't even know how I would still be alive 2 years later. But to know that there are strangers in your community today putting on an event for your child and you can't even show your face.
That's my point.
It is sick to
right
me.
there. That's my point of
And
their
even
behavior.
The emotion that I felt just listening to that interview today and realizing that she had been gone. I mean, I know she's been gone 2 years, but just hearing it all over again was so emotional for me. And I'm nobody. And I mean, I'm nobody to Summer. I don't know Summer, never met her a day in my life. But where is that emotion and outrage from her parents?
Yeah.
Why are you not? I mean, all these times that you're jumping on panels and, you know, cussing your wife out, your racial slurs, your Bible thumping, whatever you want to do on these. Why are you not knocking on the freaking Hawkins County's door asking them? I'd be there every day. You just couldn't take me.
Because I know what happened to her, so I don't have to do that.
And then that's the only conclusion I can come to.
And that's how I feel. You already know where she's at. You already know what happened to her, or you have an idea of what happened to her. You're covering up for whatever happened to her, or you're part of it. So I don't have to keep running to FBI, TBI, the news station, radio station. I'm going to do what I normally do, which is raise hell. And thank you, YouTube, social media, Facebook, for helping me do it. You see where I'm going?
And the nerve of people post.
They're great actors. They're great actors.
They are master manipulators. Because I'm not going to lie, I can listen to Don sometimes. And for a long time, I didn't think Don was involved, and maybe he didn't know. Yeah. But I've just watched so much stuff go down. There's no way he doesn't know.
Yeah. Well, he's the ringleader of the conversation, which is rare. If I wasn't home, why am I talking? The mother should be talking.
Yeah, you don't want her to slip up.
Her, but she should be the one saying, this is what happened. I got up at this time. I went this time. Why is the mother not the one avidly talking about the child when she was last with the child? That is odd to me. But see, Don knows what type of person Candace is. He knows she cannot conduct herself. She doesn't know how to hold a conversation. She doesn't know how to speak well. So he is, as you said, the master manipulator. He knows how to wind people up like a doll and, spew out bullshit. That's why he's the talker. He's the mouthpiece for the story. But he's not a good mouthpiece, because what he didn't realize is I'm also showing people the side of me that I didn't want them to see, such as the church. I didn't want them to see that I'm a drunk, I'm a crackhead. I talk about cocaine. I talk about what my life was like in prison. That's not even stuff you should even be talking about on a live stream, and your child is missing. Who gives a rat's ass about what happened with you in prison and how the black woman makes good cornbread? What the fuck does it have to do with your kid missing? Nothing.
And people are going to, I'm sorry, but people will continue to harass them. I mean, clearly, I don't know if you've seen this, but they seen yesterday, it doesn't matter how far they move from Tennessee,
Yeah,
a
people get
YouTuber.
wind that you're in that town. They're gonna get wind that you work. So let's talk about that. You said you got a job. What does he do for a living? And do they know that these people have all their children gone?
Probably not. I guess he's doing drywall. But a
Imagine
YouTuber,
what happens when they find out your
a
past.
YouTuber straight up knocked on their hotel room door
Yeah, I heard
yesterday.
about that. I saw that in the YouTube queue. I didn't open it up.
I watched it.
Okay.
But they're not, I mean, I don't agree with that either, but
No, let it go.
yeah,
You've
there's
done
no
that
good going
already.
to come from that. They're not, and that's the thing is, I don't even know why people continue to have them on panels, to each his own. But, and I was always the first to watch when they were on panel. Now I don't even pay attention. It is so, they're not going to tell you anything. It's the same regurgitated stuff over and over, wanting to preach about the Bible. They're sick. The way he talks about God and all that, he should be ashamed of himself. He really should. And, even today, with him doing that interview, where's Candace? How do you not stand up for your child? You know that's half of why everybody has so much to say about you. It's because you do not come out and speak. Come out and stand up for yourself. That's just it. If you have nothing to do with it, come out, talk.
How long do you think, I forgot what I was going to ask. How long do you think they're going to live down here in Arkansas? Why do you think they chose Arkansas as a place to reside?
Well, I believe they had previously lived in Arkansas in the past.
Yes, I heard that, yes. But you still have other places you can live.
Yeah, because Arkansas is a
Why
good
not
way
go
to
live?
live.
Why not go live near family where you can have support?
Well, I can tell you right now, if this was my family, don't bring your shit down here.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can't imagine that, any decent family member is going to want this crap anywhere near them.
But we've seen people support their family even when they've been accused of doing heinous crimes, even when there's proof they've done heinous crimes, people still support them. So why not go out west where your family lives and be near your family members? Why stay in a place where you have no one? You had no one here in Tennessee. You go to Arkansas. I do not know of any relatives on either side that live in Arkansas. So why keep going to places that you don't have any support? And I understand people live where they want to live, but why not go somewhere where you can have some support?
Well, I don't know how much family either one of them have, but they can't really go where the dad lives because of the issue with the stepsister.
Okay, so that probably would bring more emissions to mayhem as well.
Yep. I don't know, but they are.
Well, let's talk about the boys. Do you think they've lost custody? The rights have been severed by the state?
If they have not, it's on their way to being completely severed, yes. And then, because I always go back to the interview Pruitt did saying that it's kind of a sticky situations with all the different the different companies that are not companies. I can't think of the word I'm trying to use. Entities that are involved with the CPS, the FBI, them. So I have always had the feeling that kind of once everything was, wrapped up with the CPS, there would be a move on Summer. I don't know why I've always felt like that, but, and of course, I'm hanging on to every word Ronnie Lawson said.
But why? They're already in the state scared, and if they haven't been following the protocol to get their children back, it won't matter.
I don't know.
That's even more proof of not to give you your kids back. You're now being arrested for murdering your child or concealing a death or covering up, you know what I mean? Covering up an accident.
True.
What's the evidence you think they have on the two or more or whomever?
In this day and age, I just can't imagine they don't. And that's the strange thing is you've got Don all over the place saying they have nothing. They have nothing.
Let me mention this because this was mentioned at the end by Ansley. And I think this is very peculiar and something I've never heard. She said there are no phone pings. That makes no sense to me. Why would you have no phone pings and you've been running around all damn day?
Well, in that same interview that Detective Pruitt did, he said, we have checked all data, mobile data, all pings, and we have found nothing. Of course, I always thought he was lying. Just, because they can lie
Yeah,
to make people feel comfortable.
But let's just say they don't have any data. That to me would be suspicious.
I can't believe that. Well, it's
No
already.
phone pings from the time she got up to the time she came back to the house.
Oh no, that's not true.
Well, that's what a phone ping is.
I'm assuming they don't have a lot of phone pings after they returned home.
But see, this is why you have to specify, Brittany.
Because you can't tell me
open to say we don't have phone pings. If you say I don't have phone pings, that leads me to believe you have no activity on her phone or devices by all other parties, period, for that day.
Right.
Because you can't leave that open. You understand what I'm saying? You have to specify. We don't have pings from this time to this time. We don't have pings from Kingsport back to the house. We don't have phone pings, period. I took it as period.
There's no way that, the day they were at the hospital, they were in.
But if I orchestrated this day, then there wouldn't be any phone pings if I was smart enough not to use my damn phone. Stay woke.
Well, I believe it's the geofencing, and I hope they would do this. But you can take something with the geofencing. They take the towers that, the areas they would be in, and they can pull all phones that hit off of it. So let's just say, the phone she gave it, but it's used, and then they, narrow it down by the suspects, by the phone numbers, and doing all that. But they got to been doing something for these 2 years. What are they doing?
I don't know. Because in my eye, with a lot of devices, just like with the case with the Idaho 4, that's a lot of work because you're talking about all the people that passed away, all the people, the suspect, and then all the people they talked to. So that's a lot of data gathering. So I would see that taking a long time to gather. But
I agree.
In this case, you're only talking about the grandmother, the mother, and the father. What would lead me to believe you don't have no pings? Let's say there are no pings, period, for that day on any of their devices. You orchestrated this crime and you had alternate phones to get rid of the child deliberately. And that was your ruse for that day. Because if I believe there are no pings, this was orchestrated. Now, you're back up in the woods. It's probably hard to ping off of certain things depending on what type of cell towers are nearby. After Beach Creek, I don't know. But if I believe there are no pings, and then what? No pings by nobody else?
No way. Especially with her story, the story of when Don called them at
What I'm saying.
Walgreens. They got it. They would, I would think, at some point try to locate that ping to start going from somewhere, even if it's not on a device they have. They can.
No, I'm going to start from the morning you got up and you left. I'm going to start where you started. If you told me you started at your house, I'm going to start at your house. You say you went to Kingsport to go to the hospital, the pharmacy, here, the stables, wherever the hell you went. That's where I'm getting ready to ping, ping, ping. You told me you went over here to this store, ping. You went back to Kingsport to drop off Boy H, I'm pinging. You came back to the house. What route did you take? I'm pinging. I'm checking all those places. So just imagine if all those places were checked, there ain't no damn pings. Then you know it was orchestrated.
Mm-hmm. I still believe there would be some sort of proof somewhere. I don't know what, but there's actually, I just watched a video. Of course, everybody's in Kingsport right now because today's the day they're doing the visual.
Okay.
And they were showing right as you pull out of Warrior's Path, the park where she went swimming that day. Mm-hmm. There's cameras right there on that stoplight.
But were they there then?
I don't know.
Let me ask you this. How would you feel if you found out that they do have information that the little girl was abducted from the said house or property?
I would be shocked.
Okay. The red truck, relevant or not?
Not. They don't even know. Huh?
Why was it mentioned?
I don't know, because it said it was possibly, because I believe the original, the person that said they seen it could not even give a certain date. He wasn't sure if it was seen on the 14th or the 15th.
But yet somebody said the source is very reliable, and that's why they trusted who it came from, whoever that is. I believe somebody that works back up in there.
Let me look on the TBI website real quick. I believe it was a FedEx driver that is the one that gave that information.
Okay, but this is what I want to know. What is so special about that truck that it was mentioned, period?
It was sitting on the side of the road, I believe is what was said.
Where?
Doesn't give us that information.
So that's what I'm saying. Everybody's giving synopsis of this and this, but nobody is coming out saying. So I'd like to know, where's everybody hearing all this stuff? At the road, at the driveway, side of the road, reliable source. Okay, make it make sense. Why was this truck ever mentioned? Who was the person that mentioned the truck? What was it about the truck that made the person even give the tip? Are they still searching for the truck? TBI and law enforcement. So I believe it's a red herring. But why would I throw a truck in there if it's not true? That makes no sense.
Right.
I'm not going to have the public out here searching for a truck that I know doesn't exist and I know was made up by law enforcement to do what? Get somebody to try to confess? What's nothing to confess to if the truck isn't really real?
Hold on, I'm trying to see. I'm on the website now. I just want to.
And how many red trucks could there be around the general area where there's ain't but 5,000 people living in the community? And it's not to say the person wasn't out there working or visiting family, but those are the things you have to count when you throw out the make and model of a truck, a car. How many people live in the area? Then you got to count people visiting people, doing business.
So, this is what it says. It's a question and answer section under Summer Wells on the TBI website. It says, why did you release information about the Toyota truck? An individual travels through this area regularly as a part of his job. Stated that he recalled seeing a 1998 to 2000 maroon or red Tacoma truck with a full bed ladder rack, white buckets in the truck bed. The individual stated the truck might have been parked in the area of Beach Creek and Ben Hill Road in the late afternoon, either Monday the 14th or Tuesday the 15th.
Okay.
The vehicle was not captured on surveillance cameras.
Right. Because most people probably will have the cameras up near their door. We also hear that road dead ends where they're at. So think about that. Ronnie has made that clear. Ain't nobody back there unless they got business back there. Yep. He's addressing the drug trafficking comment by Mr. Wells.
Yeah.
So if I'm back there and I'm trying to kidnap a kid and I'm back there for that reason, my car is going to be parked going out, not in.
Right. Because, it's a one way in, one way out.
To get out of there.
Mm-hmm. And, it's not an easy place to, from what I've seen,
well,
to get up and down.
That's why Lawson made that rebuttal to Mr. Wells' comment. One way in, I guess it's a dead end or whatever. If I'm back here, it's either I'm lost or I have business back there. And the protocol here in the South, whenever people live up private drives in rural counties, not to travel up there. Not to, because you don't know what you're going to find going up the drive or making it halfway up the drive or to the house. It's just common sense. You don't know, like they said, if they got cameras in the trees or whatever. So that's just the law of the land here. You're not getting ready to go up in these people's driveways for no reason. You might turn around at the bottom because you're lost, or you need to turn around because you're lost. But that's the extent of just veering off some beaten path. Most people have posted signs, keep out. You know better.
Right. And yeah, from what I've heard, that's not really an area that a lot of people go. It just doesn't. It kind of reminds me of out where I live. You don't really come down here unless you know somebody. You don't really.
That's what I'm saying.
You don't have a reason to.
Who would be going up this steep driveway that's broke up, dogs everywhere running around, draw attention to a car coming up? And I'm not hearing this as a parent two adults on the property with small boys and a little girl. And you were able to get in and park your car, take a child from a basement that you know nothing about, didn't know where she was going to be in the house, and then also put her in there, throw her in there, subdue her. Think about all this now. Turn around. How you going to get back? Or you're going to drive around the house, the front of the house where a person would have a view, and the kids are in the front of the house playing video games. This is why I tell people they don't pay attention to things. You got to go around if you're trying to get your ass out, unless you're going to drive backwards down the driveway. See, I think of everything. So now I'm going to take the car with a child in the back and ride it in front of a trailer and the house where allegedly a mother is with her family. Or she's outside planting flowers with her mother, and I'm going to drive right by her with her kid in the back. And she ain't going to stop and say, hey, where are you going? What you doing up here? Stay woke. Just thought about that.
Yeah, no, none of that.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, I'd be very interested to know, just curious, if they've ever searched for her one day. Like, I mean, even, okay, so let's just say, of course, I think they're involved. So even if they're involved, you know, most would say, well, no, they're not searching because, you know, they know that she's not going to be found. But, you know, I have never heard of them being seen on a search or helping in a search. You would even think just to save face, they'd be searching.
Yeah.
But I've never heard.
We can assume 1,000 ways what we would do, what we think a killer would do, but you don't really know unless you're the killer. And that is the deduction. I'm not going to search for something I already know is lost and that I willingly got lost or helped to get lost or covered up to be discarded. See what I'm saying? Hell no, I ain't helping.
And they are so sure. I mean, when Dawn speaks, and even the times that I have heard Candace speak, they make it very clear she will not be found. Mm-hmm. And there's no doubt about it to me that she is nowhere.
Subconscious speaking.
Yep. And she's not on that property, you know, by any means, or they never would have left.
Yeah, and I tell people that all the time. Quit talking about that. There's no way those dogs would have picked up a scent on the property. That'd been the first place they would have been running around in circles. And only a fool's going to bury a child. You know how long it takes to bury a child, bury a human?
No.
Where they're not going to be found. That's why that's about 6 feet deep. Mm-hmm. You have to plan a burial.
Yeah, and I don't think Candace could have done that on her own.
And she would have been found.
Mm-hmm. You know, and I've heard people talk, and excuse me, you know, it's interesting because, you know, if there is not a lot of evidence, it's interesting to me. The one thing that maybe they could get away with, you know, saying that, yeah, maybe she did walk off. That is the one thing they stand strong on. Yeah. She would have never wandered off.
You can't say never because children wander off all the time. I'm sure every child that wandered off, their parents said that about them at some point or another. My child would never leave the premises. My child would never open the door to strangers. My child would never get in a car. But yet all the stories you've heard about children, they've done all those things.
Right.
You assume your child wouldn't. They've done TV shows where they set their child up in a room or a public place with a stranger, and the child did opposite of what the parent thought their child would do. This is why you can't say what your child would or would not do.
I mean, I really don't see her wandering deep down in the woods.
Okay, well, they say Lawson says the pavement, he says the dog trail, so let's go there. If the scent goes all the way down there, her scent had to have been there, what, recently? But then you have to ask yourself, how long does a scent last?
Yeah, that'd be my question. And that's another thing. I would assume just by looking at the home that whatever they gave them was cross-contaminated with other scents. You know, it's not like if you came and got my shirt out of my room, you know, your shirt, it doesn't look like it's like that at their house. Everything looks like it's, you know, kind of thrown together, and that it's
possible. She did have some items hung up on like a rack, I thought.
Oh, maybe she did. But, you know, I don't know how long the scent lasts, but I would assume that her scent's all over the place there because she lived there, you know?
Yeah. Okay, but if you don't think she was the type to go that far down to a road, and let's say they did take something that was hers, that get the dog scent, then what happened? She went down there, or she was carried down there? What?
Well, I think that's what Don has always tried to say, as if someone.
Picked up by somebody?
Yeah, I think that's always kind of been why he always says the scent trail, the dog trail. I think he tries to insinuate somebody walked up that trail, because it does kind of walk up to the basement if you're coming up it, and that they entered the basement, they took Kurt and went back down the
Now,
dog
see,
trail.
we
Yeah,
have to know all
you
of
have to know all that.
property. I have to know about the property. I'd have to know what's up there for me to take a risk of going on private property, entering into a basement to steal a child. How do I know there's a child in the basement? How do I know the house has a basement? So you have to know all that.
And supposedly they're outside. The parents, I mean, the grandma and the
Yeah, but you
mama.
get a timeline of when Candace actually went back in the house to go look for her daughter. She doesn't give you a specific time, to my recollection, or when she left grandma's campus trailer to go back and look for her child.
She said she was only gone 2 minutes. Has always been her story.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, 2 minutes. See, I forgot, because 2 minutes ain't nothing, because that's her version.
And that's what's so crazy, because maybe in the me
So in
originally
2 minutes,
telling
somebody came up the drive
bullshit. No.
on foot or a car and got your kid out. I don't believe that.
No, and and that's the thing. It's so strange because I could see maybe in the midst of everything going on that day, it's very chaotic, and you're like, I only turned around for 2 minutes, and people say 2 minutes.
That's
and
what we all
maybe,
say. 2 minutes can
right.
actually be 20
to
minutes.
never somewhat kind of backtrack and say, well, I said 2 minutes, but I don't know, maybe it was 5. It's like whatever they said that day, they stand firm on and they don't change it. And it's almost it's so questionable because nobody. I mean, I believe a child can go missing in 2 minutes, no doubt, in public. I'll say
that's not the problem. When you did something, is the problem.
Right.
When you reacted, when you went in the door, what you actually did when you got in the house. Did you get on the phone? Did you get on the internet? Did you go take use the bathroom? See where I'm going? I don't know because I wasn't there. I'm just going by your version. But I'm also going by your actions, how you behaved in all your interviews, staring off into space, doped up in one interview or sedated. All that means something to me. You're not searching for your child. That means something to me. Losing your boy children, not complying to get your children back, getting in trouble with the law. All those things mean something to me. Never searching, never going to viable resources to talk about your child missing. All those things matter to the queen.
And and I'd love to know who is the one that concocted the story, because I really believe, you really screwed yourself.
The one that talks the most.
I mean, yeah, because it would have made a little bit more sense to say, Candace went inside, left Summer outside for 2 minutes, but to say Summer's inside and you're outside. So that means, there's somebody coming on your property and you're not seeing them, and they're going in and they're getting the child and they're leaving and you're out there the whole time. It would make a lot more sense for it to be the opposite way. It's all odd.
There was no garden.
No.
Plants. They're potted plants. And somebody said that. They're just pots of cactuses, not a real garden. And some people may say, well, you've been a little petty. But no, if you're going to set it up, that's why you need to think before speaking. If I say garden, that's what people are going to be looking for, is a real garden.
And it was little, cactus or something?
Yeah, they're potted plants. That's a plant in a pot.
Yeah. I don't know. It's so strange.
She was there. Let me tell you something about when people say she was there. You go back to Jacqueline Giselle West. I saw them there. See, that's an orchestrated version. I don't have to tell you I saw them there. You're the one spinning the story to me. So you're telling me I came back in and I saw them there. That is the same thing somebody else just said in a true crime story. I saw her there. That's because you're lying. They were never there. But you're trying to make the story believable. So you say, I came back in from getting the firewood. I saw them there, or they were outside and I saw them there. See what I'm saying? You're saying that because you know that you're lying, but you've got to make it seem like you saw the children, or you saw the child, or I saw my husband last. So you say, I walked in or walked out, I saw him there. That's a lie. Because that's not how people talk to tell a story that they saw somebody. You'd say, I went outside to get the wood. I came back. I passed the kids. They were fine. They were playing. Went on about my business. However, you're not going to say, I saw them there. That's somebody trying to spin it to make it believable that they last saw the children at that location. That's the same thing Candace said. That's why I knew. I said, these stories are eerily similar. Cal City and Summer Wells. Both use the same type of terminology. And both, we believe, have lied about the children.
It's so strange, though, out of all the, things that could have possibly happened, which I don't think there's that many options, but the one thing that Don stands firm on is he says, I know for a fact she was adopted. Like, how do you know for a fact?
Yeah.
When you have the FBI card team that specializes in children abduction come in and say,
and the ratio.
That there is no signs of an abduction.
And let's talk about that. No signs means whatever you told me, they don't verify and validate. Why not?
What?
Because don't you think they would have gone through the dog trail for footprints? See if somebody smoked a cigarette, dropped something. Going up the trail of your driveway. I'm looking for all tire marks. See, these are things nobody talks about because everybody sticks on that he said, she said stuff. Stick to what detectives do. They look for tire marks. They look to see where somebody would have been sitting in a car. Stay woke. Did that not occur to anybody? Allegedly what the red truck was, I checked for tire marks. If I think somebody went up her driveway, I'm checking for tires that do not belong to the two cars you two are driving.
Right.
The mailman, how does he deliver mail to your house? At the bottom of the drive, or he comes all the way up and put the mail at the door? See, you have to ask all those questions.
And, it's been said, how true it is, I don't know, that the reason how they know that she left twice that day is because the people at the end of the road have a camera. And if that's true, I mean, that's one of the best signs is there's no abduction because nobody came in and nobody left.
Exactly. Because you're right. You don't know who has cameras on their house if it's facing the street. So if you got a camera facing a dead end street, you got to hope that the camera is going to show what? Because we got to remember, we got to worry about where that camera sits. If that camera don't sit where it can see anywhere near their house, then it's of no use. Because you got to know where their house is in proximity to the person who has a camera. You see what I'm saying? Then you're talking about steep driveways and dog trails. So their hypothesis is, well, they went up this way. They came this way. They could have came in the back of the house. And their property is vast. So a person who want to believe that could have came in any direction and sneaked up there and got the kid. But you still would have to have knowledge that the child is there and where she can be taken without detection. And that's where most of us sane have a problem with the storyline.
Right, because if you're outside pumping around, put on this knee brace, and they take your child, I mean,
There's no way you would. It's just no way you wouldn't have heard. You would have heard their footprints on the gravel.
Would you not have heard your child making noises?
Yeah. But I'm going to hear you walking on gravel. You can't quietly walk on gravel.
Oh, no. It's just, I will never believe they don't have any.
You had to walk in, knew where she was, subdued her, punched her, suffocated her, put a bag over her head, and she made no noise. You bringing her out either on foot into her car or taking her through any trail or direction. It's bullshit.
Right.
And see, this is what people don't understand about spinning a web. They don't think of the things that are logical. They just say, well, I'm going to spin this version. Hopefully they'll believe it. As he said, I want to mention that too. I hope in God we're reunited. You hope or you have faith in God, because there's a difference. Because you're a Christian, so like to me, you'd say, I have faith in God that I will be reunited with my child. Not I hope. I hope to see her again. I want to see my baby. I've got to see my child again. I'm praying I will see her. I'm not saying you can't hope, but it seems like to me he'd be saying, I have faith that I'm going to see my child again. I'm a Christian man. I believe this. I believe this. I believe she's alive. But at some point, a month or so in, he didn't believe she was alive. And a lot of people question that too. Why now all of a sudden you don't believe
that interview? Huh? When he spoke on that interview that Candace joined him first time, it had been 13 days, and he said that. that she could be dead.
Well, let me ask you this. Do you believe he went to work a full day?
No, I think he maybe left early.
And why would he be leaving early?
To come help Candace.
Yeah. And what do you think she said, if we to believe she called him and something happened to the child on purpose or accidentally? She called Don to say what exactly?
I don't know, that maybe she was hurt or something. And apart, I don't know. I just can't imagine that conversation, really. And maybe it was a question of, do we take her to the doctor? Like, let's just say she fell. Because, I mean, it's very, I mean, I could definitely see that, you know, it's very hazardous.
He makes the point of saying she's not the type to not render aid for the child. But well, maybe others will argue, well, look at how you're living. And allegedly you all didn't have no money and medical insurance, but you didn't get no aid from the state. He ain't paying for private medical. So she wouldn't take the child if indeed they have financial problems. Because, you know, medical bills are going to cost. You call an ambulance, that's going to cost.
I don't believe that
they had medical from the state, that will be covered.
I don't believe that they had financial problems. I believe that they spent their money the way they wanted to.
Yeah, okay.
But yeah, okay, let's just say they had no interest. I don't know. I'd also, let's say that she's hurt. I don't foresee Candace as being the one to take her. I feel like she's the type of person, she needs Don to go with them to the hospital, let's say. I don't know why I feel that way, but just because, I don't know, I do. And maybe once she got to Don,
because she doesn't know how to talk, or she has fear that she would be implicated as doing something to her child.
Right, and I could see Don as being the type to put something like that on her, you know, out of all the years they've been together, that he's made her feel that, you know, I don't know how to talk to people. That is why I need him here. I could see that. I don't know, but I just, because I mean, at the same time, Don, I can't imagine her going to Don and like, oh, this happened, now we have to get rid of her. I see Don would, you know, want to kill Candace, I would think. So I almost feel like it was like, you know, something they had to both agree upon. I don't know.
But with you, if we're to believe, that's why I always say, when you get information from these entities, such as Ansley and this and that, all the stuff is contradictory. If you're going to tell me there are no pings, then I don't have to assume about who did what and who didn't do what. That means it's orchestrated.
Well, right, and especially if it's true that there's a camera at the end of the road. So, Candace, we know you're leaving. We see you leaving. We can't ping you. Where are you going?
That's what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm. And that's probably, it wasn't in her original alibi.
Because there's always going to be something that you cannot explain when you plan a murder or cover up a murder, because that's just life. There are always going to be unexpected things. It's just like when you do wrong. You may not have been thinking you were seen, or maybe you didn't care at the time. But there's always somebody looking out of a window. There's always somebody got a doorbell camera or camera in the window. You didn't know about it. It's just the way it is. So even if they planned this murder of a child, or get rid of the child, traffic the child, sell the child, however it went, there's always going to be something that comes up that you were not hoping on, such as being seen somewhere, not seen somewhere. You said you did this, but then there's evidence to show, well, no, that's not true. You understand what I'm saying?
Right. I don't know. It's crazy. But I truly hope they find it.
To the child at the house.
Yeah, that or she was left in the vehicle. I kind of felt like. I feel like it's a lot.
Slow down. She was left in the vehicle. What do you mean?
Like whenever possibly, you know, they show her sleeping on that milk, that maybe when she got home, she was asleep and they just left her in the car because she was sleeping.
Okay.
And, you know, a lot of people say, well, it was only 78 degrees that day. Well, yeah, it's only 78 degrees here today at my house. But when I went to get in my car earlier, it was said 93 inside my vehicle.
Okay.
So, you know, and I mean, I would hope Candace is smart enough to roll down a window. But I don't know. I think it's a lot simpler than we all made it at times too. I feel like
it can be. Maybe some things can be easily explained. Maybe these people are telling the truth. What if we find out that all the quirkiness, all the bizarre behavior, vile behavior, this is just who they are, which I believe that. But they didn't do anything to the child. The child was abducted, what? There. Or maybe she was abducted somewhere else. And they lied and made it to a story about the house. But we got too many cameras out here in the street. That would have been probably corroborated by now.
well, and I truly believe that if for some reason she was abducted, that they still played a part. Whether it was the people they were hanging out with, whether it was something they got themselves into. But a lot of people say, oh, maybe it was a drug deal. I don't know no drug dealer that takes a baby. I'm sorry. So I don't believe that story either. No. But I don't know. I can't, a lot of people said it's 2 years and they've not been arrested. It's 2 years and they've not been cleared, in my opinion. You know how crazy YouTube is. You know how many people hear something and they are running and calling TBI. They are calling Hawkins County. If they could clear those parents, they would, just to get all of these people on YouTube off their back. I truly believe if they could come out and clear Don and Candace, they would, to shut down some of this.
That's a very good point.
I really believe that.
No polygraphs ever mentioned by law enforcement to the public, which I think is strange. Not identifying who you believe to be a suspect, which we understand they won't do that for obvious reasons. But you're right. Why not just clear them and then people can stop assuming? We can stop assuming this and that. Just clear them automatically. But you can't clear them because they're not cleared. That's
because they're not cleared, and that's just
exactly. That's it.
Because all they, it's. I hate to hear it every time I hear it. It's all this YouTube.
That's why the polygraph stuff. That Robin person coming in the chat with all that nonsense about who took a test, they've been cleared. Well, if that's the case, they wouldn't have no problem with telling them, well, polygraph, no polygraph, we've cleared these people. We don't suspect them in any disappearance of the child. The disappearance of the child. So it don't matter about a damn polygraph. How about that? They have not been cleared by TBI and law enforcement.
Right. Because, I don't really care about the polygraph because, they can't use it in court. So, and I've watched these people, not to mention, it's different when you hear about somebody pass a polygraph test and you've not seen them speak so many times.
Well, I've watched polygraphs and they were involved in the crime.
Right. But I've watched Don and him, he almost convinced me myself. So he like I said, I believe that they are truly master manipulators. And I believe that,
He convinced you of what?
I've watched him and he's made me feel like, okay, maybe he doesn't have anything to do because there's just a way
I may have thought that in the beginning of the story when I didn't have a lot of information from TBI and the parents themselves. But once we started hearing all this jackass stuff from Boy H, his mama, Pookie Ray, then he's jumping on live streams. I didn't need anything else. That's why I always listen to people and their actions and their commentary at the beginning of the story. When you start doing vile shit, it shows me that you don't care about yourself. That tells me you don't care about your kids. So if you don't even care about your kids, why am I going to believe you did have something to do with your child getting missing?
Right.
This is how I look at people.
And it's strange they haven't, I would hope that, at 2 years I was hoping that they would have cleared.
This is bad. 2 years is too long.
It is. That's a long time.
Especially for where they live. We're not talking about a child going missing in New York City.
Right.
She walked to the ice cream shop. Well, the possibilities are endless. You're talking about in rural America where people know not to go lollygagging around, running up on people's property. As Chris Madonna says in his commentary, whatever happened to her had something to do with the house itself and the property and the family.
Uh-huh. Because, we've said it all along. These people were gone all day, and those boys were left there by themselves.
Okay, so why would she go missing? That's why I was telling people, pay attention. If I am out here abducting children, what is so special that I got to wait for that girl to get home in the middle of nowhere?
Right.
So that means I would have had to been at the property to know she wasn't there.
And they waited for two adults to be home.
Now, let them tell it. Somebody did go on the property. That let Don tell it. Some guy was there, remember? But yet you don't call the police and you don't leave work early to go check on the children. So that makes no sense. So throw that in there. So you got a call from whom to say there's some creepy crawly guy running around the property. Some guy used to know, work with me, woo, woo, woo. You, one, didn't call the police, and two, you didn't leave your job to go check on your damn kids. But then all of a sudden, out of the blue, the girl child gets missing when she gets home. See, all this is orchestrated. This sounds orchestrated.
See, and that makes me go back on my theory about her getting hurt, because it does, you know. And I know that a lot of the people that have came out and spoke are not very credible, but when you go back and I think about the interview with the guy that used to work with him, he talks about walking into the house they were working on that day, and Don was sitting like on the side of the tub and looked so upset, like he lost his best friend. And that's the day he says he gets in an argument with him for no reason and then fired him. I believe he needed to fire Dudley that day so Dudley could not be part of the alibi. He needed Dudley to be gone and out of the picture from the job, because.
Well, that's an interesting point. So that means he don't have an eyewitness to say his comings and goings of that day at work. That's what you're saying?
Right. So that goes back to me thinking that it was an accident and they covered it up. That wouldn't make sense, because and then you take that.
But if he leaves work and there's somebody working with him, that person can say, yeah, he left at this time to say he got an urgent call about his kid.
Yeah, or he left at this time and said he was going to lunch and I didn't go with him. Yeah. So just if there was any unaccounted time, if Dudley would have been working for him, he could have said that. So you take that, and then you take the fact that they're supposedly at Walgreens, and he calls and he says, there's somebody on the property, whatever it is, he said it, think about this. Somebody calls you and says, somebody's on our property trying to touch little kids. What sense does that make?
That's what I said. But you didn't leave, and nor did you call the police. That is strange to me. So that to me is something you're adding on to help exacerbate the storyline.
So where I think, and okay, so none of that makes any sense, because number one, who told you this? And neither one of y'all leave to go home to take care of these kids. Hell, Candace goes and takes Summer swimming and still don't go home after hearing this call. So there's that. But I wonder if the setup was
so there was no concern for the boys.
No. So I'm wondering if he was playing that on Jackie Dobbs. Was that his name? Where he had been over working on his property when he lived across. You remember that guy?
Mm-hmm.
If maybe that's the guy he was trying to say, I don't know. But it's strange, because when you think about, I feel like Hunter was only an alibi. I feel like,
orchestrated. That day was orchestrated. If we're to believe no pings, all this extra stuff with him talking to the guy at work, Dudley firing him to set it up for the next day, then that means you orchestrated this not just that day, but beforehand.
And not to mention his number one suspect immediately, he said, was Dudley, because he had fired him.
Okay, so let's go here. If this was orchestrated the day before, the 15th, what was the motive for orchestrating the child's disappearance?
I don't know. I do not know. I cannot. I mean, I can't imagine what would make you have to get rid of a child. A lot
of people think DHS was involved, and she was going to school. She was going to be taking a physical and all that. I mean, people really just be out there with the accusations, but you got to have proof of assuming anything about a physical and this, that, and the other. Oh, it must have been SA, but you don't have proof to that. You're just going by some shit that you heard happened with him and his stepsisters years ago. But let's be truthful. Had they never came out, you would have never known he had any involvement as a child and young man with SA.
Right. And I do know that, at kindergarten, there are shots that have to be had to start school. So there would have been things that had to be done. But as far as a physical where that would prove that there was SA, that would not be done. That would not be done.
And how many children take physicals where their private parts are checked?
They're not.
That's what I'm saying. You don't have proof that a doctor does that.
They don't. I have a kid, and no, we've never. I mean, there's been times that they did checkups, but I could not, especially at kindergarten.
Maybe they should. If they don't do it, some parents might be offended, but maybe children do need a thorough exam, a rectal exam.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I can't think of a time that's been done on my child, and I'm always in the room with them. So I don't know. That's strange. But so I don't know. I just can't imagine what would make you have to get rid of that child. I don't know.
People have assumed SA by the father or whomever, and any other type of damage to any type of damage is done that would be visible to a doctor, physician, and the obvious. I don't want her anymore.
And that's the only thing I could think. Because I can say a lot of things about Dawn and Candace, none positive, but I don't know that I believe that she was sexually assaulted. I don't know that I believe that.
Yeah, because this is what I tell people. If you had never heard from the stepsister running the YouTube, Chris Madonna, you would have never known about no SA in Dawn's life. So imagine had you never heard anything from them sisters. Would you have come up with the SA as a forethought? Probably not. Probably not.
Probably not, no. And I still, and even they talk about the bathing.
So let's go here before you go into your commentary. Do you believe he touched his child inappropriately?
No, I don't.
Do you think he touched his boys inappropriately?
Inappropriately by maybe hitting them, not sexually, no.
Do you believe Candace touched her children inappropriately?
No.
So why is the child missing?
I don't know.
You don't see these people deliberately killing their kid? Because that's why I always ask that question to people when they say it's an accident. It's an accident. I think it's an accident. This is what I always tell people, just from what you've already learned from TBI and stats and from the FBI. Most children are killed by their own damn parents. So why, with this rinky-dink redneck couple, you can't see them deliberately killing their own damn kid? Help me understand. When most kids are murdered by their own. Every day in the queue, there's somebody murdering their children. And it's a news story. But yet all the way down here in the holler, some of you can't see these two deliberately killing their own damn kid. Why not? Because when you look at how they live, most people say, I can't see how you not would think that they, that they would kill their kid. You're getting drunk, you're getting turned up, you possibly using drugs. Some people think maybe she was high that day. But make me understand why this couple could not have planned the death of Summer Wells.
Oh, what sense? It's just hard to understand because...
Brittany, I ain't giving you no pass on that. All the stories you watch that these people have killed their kids. Why are you trying to put logic behind Summer Wells? I mean, I'm serious. I want you to think about that. Why her? Why you can't accept they killed their kid on purpose when people kill their kids every day? That's what I'm trying to make the chat understand.
And if it was planned, they would have had to because, like I said, I like to believe it's an accident cover-up. But then when I go back and I think, I don't know, because I just can't think that anybody would. I mean, I know they do it all the time.
Yeah,
but
that's why I want you to think about what you're saying, though. You believe other people kill their kids, but for some reason you can't believe this group of people who have shown you how they act and behave couldn't deliberately kill a kid. Really? No, I'm being serious.
I know, I believe you.
Nasty names, name calling. You think he wasn't doing that around his children? You think he wasn't using the word nigger around his children? You think he didn't around his kid little niggers and this and that and MFs? So now ask yourself, why these two could not have deliberately killed that little girl?
I believe they could. Yeah, I do. I mean, because
you have shown no regard for yourself. You are first before any child you've ever given birth to. Your mama, your daddy, whomever. These people have bad history with DHS and their children and child neglect, drug use, alcohol use, verbal, physical abuse, sexual abuse of other children, allegations. So, stepsisters and so on and so forth. What would be so special on this round with some children? It wasn't.
And it's not. Even with, and if you think about that, and then you think about the fact that the boys were taken after that, you made no conscious effort to do anything to keep them in
that. That's what I'm saying. So I always tell people, even if you never found out the truth of what happened to a person, a child, you deal with the obvious. These people have given you too many clues into how they were living. I mean, Chris Madonna said it perfectly. When I walked into the kitchen to get to the bottom, I'm seeing this is how this little girl is living in this house with these people. This is not a conducive place to live, period. Period. Whoever you are. Now you take into all of that and what you're seeing exacted by the family on social media, news interviews, and you can't see how she would have deliberately got murdered. Why does it have to be an accident when you're dealing with dope fiends and drug addicts and alcoholics and people who stayed in trouble with the law?
Right.
Because they don't care about themselves.
No, and they
So
don't.
they never cared about their other children. They didn't care about these kids. Who would subject their kids to living like that? You don't even have that much circumference to even walk from downstairs to upstairs like a normal fucking house. The girl's down in a cold dungeon for a child. Those people put adult children in basements. Hey, you can use the basement. That could be your bedroom. Or your child is a teenager. He wants to be, ducked out from the rest of his siblings. Okay, I'll give you the basement for your bedroom. There was nothing conducive and great looking for that to be any child's room, whether it was a boy or a girl. So now I got to imagine how you were treated in that dungeon that I'm looking at. Okay? How your family acts, how they're living, the property inside, how they're acting to the public. Now, why would I not think you couldn't have hurt your child deliberately? There's nothing special about Don and Candace. There's another Don and Candace walking around right now, free, waiting to be a news story. And I won't doubt they'll get into some mischief down there in Arkansas because old habits die hard.
It's just crazy. How have they gotten away with this, though? I mean, I don't believe they have.
Because you planned it.
But they're not
2
smarter.
years later, you have nothing to bring to the public. That would show me you planned this. Because there's too many ways to get caught just from your own DNA, your own hair strands. You see where I'm going?
Mm-hmm.
Your own fingerprints. You're out in the middle of nowhere with 5,000 people. Think about that for a second. They laid it out for you. 5,000 people, and yet nobody has nothing on a little girl that you can give to the public that could be of any use. Just call us if you know something, but you're not telling us what you know. And could it be they don't have anything on these two buffoons? They don't have nothing on a red truck. They don't have any other suspects, but it just looks suspicious due to the fact they're in the middle of nowhere. We don't have tire tracks. We don't have video surveillance. We don't got shit. So that leaves the people she was with, which are her parents, grandmother.
Right. I mean, I'm surprised he's even allowed to. I mean, I don't know if whenever he got out of jail, he, he
Writing the
started.
boys, and I find that strange. You don't hear any mention of Candace writing or talking to the children. It was just mentioned at Dawn. So, Candace, why weren't you talking to your children? If it's true, were you not talking to your children? Why not? And what happened to the letter stopping after he got out of jail last February? The children stopped. Did just stop what?
Well, and Don has said himself, they don't want to come back.
Okay.
That the boys
That
have
has
told
nothing
them.
to do with the fact they're my children, and if I'm following protocol to get them back, it doesn't matter if the children want to come back or not. That'd be up for a judge to say, well, let me hear what the children have to say about wanting to go back.
Right.
I'm saying you ought to do what you need to do to get the kids back. And if you were trying to get them back early on, you wouldn't have given your child time enough to get comfortable to not want to come back. See what I'm saying?
Oh, no way. Yeah, you're exactly right.
They stay gone long enough and this is their feelings. Hell yeah, okay, I'm liking this life. I'm comfortable, I'm cool, I'm meeting new people, I got my own room, da-da-da-da. See, every child is different. You might have another child that still want to go back. And they might be living a really good life and being treated well. Because you can't stop children from loving their parents, no matter how horrible the parents appear. Children still will love because they're resilient and they are unbiased. Some of them are unbiased to the dispositions of their parents. The nasty dispositions, negative dispositions of the parents. You can still love a crackhead, drug addict, alcoholic. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's all I know is that alcoholic mama. I want my mama. Yeah, I know she's flawed. I know my daddy's flawed. I know he calls people niggers, but that's still my daddy.
Yeah. I don't know. I can't imagine being them. That is for sure.
You can't imagine what?
I just can't imagine being Don and Candace. I mean, I just don't know how you.
That's
I
what I'm
don't
saying.
know.
But people live like them every day. Do you know how many people I see that act like Don and Candace? Really, you don't want me to just sit here and just count on my fingers?
No, I mean, I believe you. And I know a lot of
They
shitty
curse,
people.
they talk crazy, they name call, they fall out drunk, they fight, pull hair, knock out teeth, makeup. That's every day here in America. And I'm sure it's abroad as well.
I just can't imagine waking up and having, I mean, I only have one, but having none of my like, how does that not
But I've done
eat
it,
at your freaking
but
soul?
I've done it before. So really, what's the big deal that these four are gone? I've already lived this life already.
And they truly can't. I mean, they can't, because I can't imagine waking up and thinking about anything else than how the hell do I get my child back?
Yeah.
And then to know that there's, what is there, 3 boys? There's 3 boys, and you just, it's disgusting. And then you have the nerve to get
See,
up.
it shows you the real Candy and Don.
Yeah, and
There's
you're
no
exactly
other way
right.
to describe it. They are showing you who they are. So when Chris took you to the house, you saw how they lived inside and out. You got a glimpse of their life from Boy H, the mother, other relatives, neighbors. Everybody started coming up out the pot. You got a glimpse of who they are. So that's why I'm not shocked that 1 is missing and 3 are in the state's care. And then you go back in their past, they're just repeating what they've already done before in a past life.
And it is interesting because the few times that I have seen them recently on live, Don and Candace interacting together is a lot different than before. It seems that like they are at more at peace now in a way. It's almost
They're
like,
not obligated.
yeah, they're not obligated to anything.
We can go smoke, snort, get drunk, fall out, beat each other up, make up. There's nobody to come complain now. There's nobody to go spin a web to the police or to the DHS. There's no more of that.
And that's my thing with people giving them money. They don't have any kids. I understand that, everybody falls on hard times and whatever else. But these kids, they don't have kids anymore.
Yeah, I wouldn't give them a dime.
No, oh my God, it makes me so mad.
Because he's able-bodied and she could work too. She could do private health care. She could do a lot of things to make money. There's 1,000 ways of making money and legal. So for her to sit around and not want to work or hustle or make any money is bullshit. And then too, your kids are gone. So that should have been enough incentive for both of you all to get off your asses and get your kids back. I don't think they wanted them back. I think somewhere down the road, they got lazy. They said, I ain't about to go here. Somebody said that the girl didn't want to drive. If you don't even want to drive to your own fucking kids, you didn't want them because you didn't want them in the first place. That's just how I look at it.
I can't imagine.
There's been excuses about driving far to see your kids. They put those kids somewhere safe and obviously somewhere where somebody could take care of them. So if the drive is 2 hours, 3 hours, you make the provisions to go see them. If you want them back, if you want to see your kids. So that's them. Oh, my mom didn't show up for my visit this weekend. My daddy didn't show up for the visit this weekend. Don had enough time to see those kids before he went to jail. See, that's bullshit. That's from July 21 up to February 22.
And that's got to be so hurtful because these kids aren't they know what's going on. They're not 1 and 2 years old. I just can't imagine knowing that, number one, I've already been taken away from my parents. But then here comes this visitation day. And you can't show up for me just one. I hope they have them in really good counseling because they'll need it for sure.
Yeah.
But they're sick. They really are, and that's the disgusting thing. They're just gross. I mean, I can't imagine. Every child.
And they've been like this their whole life. That's the whole point of the story. Is that these are not 2 people that made a mistake and got their three children removed. A false allegation, and they tried to fight it. This is their history with other individuals. And then these 2 met in the universe to repeat the same bullshit they exacted with their other children. You have to ask yourself, how is that even possible? But they say that we repeat the same situations in our lives, just with different people. You meet an abusive man over here. You get away from him, and then you pick up another MF. He's just as worse as the last one. You see where I'm going? You attract some loudmouth woman.
Yeah.
Vagrant. You get rid of her, you leave her, she leaves you. Now, boom, next woman. She's no different than the last. She says a different name, different skin color, eye color, height, weight. We do this in life. We repeat the same BS from person to person. Friendships, courtships, marriages.
Yeah, they're just gonna barely our gross. I mean, if I was them, I'd always be on drugs and an alcoholic because I couldn't stay in my life sober
Jenny says
probably.
you repeat until the lesson has been learned. Well, obviously, most of us, we ain't learning from our mistakes. Maybe there's some comfort in this toxicity with people. We stay with people for various reasons: loneliness, financial. Don't think we can do better. We don't feel like we deserve better. I mean, I can't speak for everybody's ideology why we do crazy things. We keep fooling with people that don't mean it's no good. We keep going back into relationships that were already tainted. And then we say, okay, let me try again. But it was already tainted. Time 1, time 2, time 3. But yeah, I go back in a 4th round as if I'm expecting a different result. But you can't get a different result because that person is the same. And then next thing you know, they're complaining that you're the same, you're this, you're that. There's no happy medium. It can't be because it wasn't meant to be. It's just a matter of you making yourself understand this ain't going to ever work out. And that's why we have the problems we have. Because we keep hoping that it's going to change. The person's going to change. But if I ain't changing, he or she ain't changing, well, what's the point?
It's the vicious cycle.
It is. It's just what I said. They'll go right down there where they're at, and they'll be wrapped up in some BS down there in Arkansas. Mark my words.
Yeah, in no time.
He's going to get drunk, get mad. They're going to get the fighting in the hotel. Somebody going to call the police. He'll get arrested or she'll get arrested or she'll get tangled up with some new associates and friends. And it'll be a repeat of all the BS they have endured since they have been legally on their own.
It's pathetic. It really is.
It is pathetic. It's
this
sad
is
because
and it's real life for them. That's the thing. Because sometimes I feel like we talk about stuff on here, and it's almost like it's just a story. But this shit is really, that's the weirdest thing to me, is because this shit is real. To know that there is this many children that are gone from them, to know there is truly this child missing for 2 years, and you act like fools, and you have no appreciation to the people that truly do care. I know that YouTube is crazy, and people say a lot of things, but stay off YouTube. This is not where you need to be, anyways. But
I would have brought my drama of my life to just some random old peasants to exact all this crazy nonsense. They ask for all of this, and then maybe that's God's way of saying, I'm going to give you what you put in the universe. And that's what people don't understand about the universe. The universe has to get it back. She has to get it back. Just like all the crazy things you're seeing happening in the world, the interstate falling in and collapsing and buildings collapsing and people killing and murdering each other and assaulting each other. It's just showing you this is what's here. This is what's walking around. Tainted people, jacked up people, angry people, vengeful people. The earth rebelling against itself and its inhabitants. It's tired. It's tired. And you got to pay it back at some point. You're out here doing all type of mischievous stuff. Maybe this is their payback. Yeah, we got the 3 boys. Hell yeah, they gone because we know what you did with that girl. God says, I ain't going to let you have 3 kids and you forfeited 1. It don't work like that.
No. Where are their other kids? The adult ones. Do they have any? They don't have anything to do with. I just can't. It just makes me feel so gross to think that you have this many children and
just scattered around.
Yeah, and to know that they have no parents. And
well, what about them not being able to even talk to their own siblings? Because these children that are grown would have to reach out to the state to say, hey, I'd like to have, some bonding time with my siblings that, do they even care to even do that?
Probably not.
Really? How you know that some of them don't want to see these kids?
I don't know. I'd be interested to know. I'd be interested to know what type of people they are. I know that sounds really bad. I'm just meaning the grown
Well,
ones.
it could be products of Candace and Don to act just like them. That's what people don't understand about genetics.
Yeah.
That shit is real. You could grow up never caring about a drink in your life, and next thing you know, you're drinking excessively like your parents.
Right.
You're using drugs like your parents. You're overeating like your parents because it's genetics. That shit is real.
Yeah, and I didn't mean it as ugly as it sounded, but yeah, I am interested because without the proper canceling and things like that, they would just be I'd be really interested to know what. Hopefully, they're not, but I don't know. But it's a good thing that the boys are where they are because I hope it's a better life.
Well, they were going to be gone eventually because maybe this was what the universe had planned because this is their prototype. They are mischief makers. They do not know how to go out in the world and live like normal people where you go out, have a good time, mingle with people, come home, live civilly, try to, raise your children decent. They don't know how to do that. And they could choose, they could try. That's the point. Do you try? Because, it's that old new saying, well, you do better if you knew better. That's bullshit. We all know what we should and shouldn't be doing, whether we were raised by heathens or not.
Right.
You look at commercials and look at stuff of what is expected of a human being to do right, to obey the law, blah, blah, blah. It's your choice to decide you want to do those things or not.
I just had a funny thought. They really are delusional. Let me give you a good example. I watched Candace's YouTube video that she made the other day. Listen to this. She's outside and she's walking around a pond, and there's like a few things of trash. I think it was like a chip bag and one was a bottle. And the title of the video was something to the effect, clean up after yourself, stop making the world so dirty or something. I'm thinking the freaking nerve of you to post this video when we have all seen.
But there's people that do that. Let me tell you something.
But it was just amazing to me.
The same people who are like Candace and Don that would do something like that and post that to social media, they're the same people who would be working in a restaurant, crying and moaning about how to make a hamburger, make it nice and neat, but then they'll go back to a house living like Candace and Don. You see where I'm going?
But it was just so strange to me.
A lot of people do that. Your house is filthy inside. Your house is nasty outside. You got all this debris, animals running around. You don't care to keep up the property, make the property look decent, haul all that shit off the property. How about never have hauled it on the property in the first place? And then you're worrying about a soda pop can and a Snicker bar wrapper on the ground because that's what you like where you're at. You like that outdoor living because it's free. It's freedom. It's not like that cooped up shit you've been in over there on the Ben Hill Road. So out here it's free, nice. I like this. So I don't want to see beer cans, candy wrappers. Well, who gives a fuck about how I lived at Ben Hill Road? Because the public don't know I live like that back there. See where I'm going? My house is hidden back there.
Mm-hmm.
So nobody knows I live like a pig back there.
It was just, I know it's so relevant to what we're speaking on, but it was just very interesting.
No, but that's the hypocritic oath that people take.
I was just thinking, are you freaking delusional? We've all seen you. But, I mentioned, I think about them living in this hotel room. I doubt you even let the maid come in to clean it up for you.
It's probably nasty in there. It's probably nasty in there. They probably got wet towels all in the bathroom, hanging up on door handles and over the door. Never take the towels out to put out to be clean, to get fresh towels. You live like a pig over there at Ben Circle for years. You're doing it in that hotel. You're going to do it in a trailer. You're going to do it at the next house. You could give them a mansion right now, and that MF would be nasty as hell.
Oh, yeah. It's just, they're gross. It's pathetic.
Well, Jenny, I hope they do break the curse. And that's the whole thing about being a human being. It's up to you to try to choose the way you live. But a lot of people do, exact how they were treated. You may not want to be an asshole. You may not want to be an abuser. You may not want to be a cusser. But next thing you know, you're cursing. Next thing you know, you're verbally abusive. I got tics from my mom. Stuff I used to load. She was slow getting ready to do stuff, right? Next thing I know, I look up, it's taking me forever to get dressed, forever to get motivated to put my clothes on, put my makeup on, take a shower. All the things I loathe with my mom. Like, oh, I'm never going to be like that. Oh my God, why take you so long to get ready? Why don't you hurry get in the shower so we can go? Now I'm doing all those things. It's genetics.
Yeah.
And it's hard
I
to explain
do.
because you're not thinking in your mind, you're going to be like your parents. You're not going to be like your caretakers. You might say starting out, oh, I'd never do that. Yeah, I was on time and doing stuff when I was younger, but now I lollygag around. And I hate it. Because in my mind, I tell myself, as meticulous as you are about keeping your house clean, I take care of my business. I'm proficient with my business. But when it's time for me to get ready to go somewhere, that is the one thing I am not proficient in. I lag, I touch stuff, move stuff, but I'm OCD. I own that. I don't have a problem with owning that. And then, too, this is my domain. I can do what the hell I want in here.
The earlier I start getting ready, the later I am for some reason.
I did that the other day. Had everything. Finally told myself, lay everything out. Jewelry, clothes, this, that. Still look at the clock. Somehow I'm still behind. I'm like, you have got to be kidding me. It's like something gets in the way. Start looking at something. Somebody calls me. Then I'm thrown off track. And I'm like, hey, I'm on a schedule. Hey, I got all my stuff out. I'm ready. I'm early. Yet I'm still running out the door later than I had planned. It is a strange phenomenon.
You know, and it's everything that's normal to us. I think about that with them is I can't imagine, and they have no schedule.
And I'm glad you mentioned that because as someone said to me recently, you know, what you like, I don't have to like, blah, blah, blah. What you think is right, wrong. Everybody thinks differently. This is true. Very true. So what we are judging as a not a normal life, getting high, getting drunk, staying in trouble all the time, pillar to post living. Some people think that's okay. Walking around not taking a bath, wearing nasty clothes all the time. That's okay for some people.
And you know,
so people judge if you say you shouldn't say that's wrong for them.
I don't really care what they do, to be honest. I don't care.
I don't either.
What I care about is where is your child? I mean, if you don't, you know, I don't have a child missing. So you can say I live however you want to say I live. I know exactly where my child is. I can go put my finger on him if I want. You know what I'm saying? I know where my kid is. Mm-hmm. We don't have a kid missing. You have a child missing, and you're blaming everybody but they blame everybody. They blame the neighbor. They blame the workers. They blamed, everybody. And you know, that's in Dawn, if you had nothing to do with it, at some point, have you ever really questioned yourself? Like, because I know that if I was not home and my husband says that my son went missing in 2 minutes and, you know, there's no suspects, and I'm not sure that in the back of my mind, I wouldn't think, like, is he not telling me something?
Yeah.
You know, it's just so.
But let's talk about the 80s. Let's just say she planned this or he planned, one planned it and the other one covered it up. Why would you do that?
I don't know. I can't. It's hard to make sense of it because we're just not we're not those type of people. I mean, because I can't really think of any logical reason that they had to.
I know right now, I come home or you call me to tell me, hey, this happened with the baby, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to come home and help you cover up a damn thing.
No.
Because I wasn't there.
Yeah.
And I'm not helping anybody cover up no damn crime. I'm not doing it.
No.
I know that could surely backfire on me.
Well, and you know, it's something.
And that's how I would look at it. But see, somebody else don't look at it like that. That's my wife. That's my husband. I'm going to stick by whatever they say. Even if they're lying to me, I'm going to go on and help them cover up, bury the body. You have
never that.
All the time. That's why I tell you, there are thousands of Candaces and Dons running around.
And someone that truly loved you would never put you in that position.
But they do. And that's why I was thinking about the lady who's accused of killing her husband, right? First thing I said to myself was this. If I'm to believe that she really did this, why do you people keep doing this? When you see people going to jail, prison, detectives gathering the information, agents gathering the information, somehow in your mind you think you have planned this crime out thoroughly, but you did not. Why would you risk penitentiary knowing others have gone to penitentiary for the same type of crime? But yet you go ahead and plot the death of the person any damn way. That's what I don't understand about the human spirit, is the plotting the deaths, the killing people, hurting people, knowing that other people are locked up for the same or similar crimes. But yet you felt like what in your head, you could get away. So what is so special about you getting away in like plotting someone's murder? That's one thing I cannot understand about a true crime.
I don't know. And you know, and that's the thing when I think about if John and Candace did this, I'm thinking, okay, with their records and their, am I echoing?
No.
With their records and their background, you know, they knew this wasn't a good, you know what I mean? With their kid goes missing, this isn't a good look. So I would think they would have considered,
Exactly.
I don't know.
How I'm going to act. But this goes back to what I said about what's considered the norm. This is the norm for some people. I don't know if I should say some or most, depending on when you. To me, you can say most due to the fact you got 10 billion people on Earth. That's a lot of damn people, so you can't say most. A lot of people live like this. Rather, a lot of people act like this. They talk like this. They're ignorant acting. They got to answer for everything. They're manipulators. They're con artists. They're fraudsters. They don't want to do anything. They ain't got no hustle. Don't want to work. Whatever negative you can come up with. There are many more people walking around just like Candace and Don. They've been in trouble with the law. They've had numerous interactions with law enforcement, state agencies dealing with child abuse, neglect, so on and so forth. And yet they have learned nothing because they do not care. And this is why they continue to keep getting into trouble and having these types of problems. I know people like this. They don't take a day off from getting in trouble. They've got to keep breaking the law, getting in trouble. You would think even if you got a DUI today, you would take a fucking break and say, well, you know what? I'm going to work on not drinking and driving. I'm going to work on trying to better myself. Or I'm going to work on not catching, this type of charge or assault charge. And yet next thing you know, 2 weeks later, you're back in jail needing a bond for hitting somebody else because you don't care.
No, they don't.
And that's why people they act like they're so utterly confused when you see these people getting in trouble all the time and always having these legal troubles. The first thing you need to accept is that he or she does not care about themselves. So it's going to always be a story, a version, a news clipping because they don't care. And when you realize the person doesn't care, that's when you can decide if you want to fool with them or not, if you're dealing with them personally. Do I want to be subjected to this? Do I want to be around these people that keep doing these crazy type of things, always in trouble with the law, always getting in trouble, acting out, lashing out? Do I want to be a part of that? Hell, do I want to end up becoming a victim, fooling with them? That's what you have to tell yourself. I'm worthy. I don't need this. I don't want no parts of this, whether I was raised around it or not. I deserve better. And when you see people like Candace and Don, you should run like hell.
Yeah, seriously.
As they say, these are the kind of people you just throw your hands up in the grocery store. How you doing? You keep on moving. You don't get acquainted. You don't ask them nothing. You don't ask them for nothing. You don't invite them over for dinner. You don't invite them to go drink in the car, drink at the park, go out to the bar. They're not those kind of people you want to be involved in unless you're on their level.
Yeah, and I don't ever want to be on that.
I wouldn't fool with people like that because you already know what you're getting ready to get if you've been around them long enough. That's why I found it strange with that lady, that Summer Saturday teacher. You're hanging around these people like you that you're like that, like you're living a facade or a lie. That maybe behind closed doors you're getting turned up and drunk and high and shit. How do I know you're not? Because I don't have to support you publicly. I can call and check on you every blue moon, get an update about Summer, but I don't got to be in front of no cameras with you. I don't got to be in front of no damn video camera with you. I don't have to do that to prove nothing. And that makes me think that lady was just doing that shit for show. Or she's highly gullible. Take your pick.
Little of both, probably.
And they hope to meet people like that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I believe that.
Yeah, because they've lived this way their entire lives. It's conning and swilling people.
Mm-hmm.
They're looking for people like, that school teacher or whatever, that's a church leader, whatever teacher. You want to be around people like that because you want them to see the good in you. And that's the thing that's interesting to me about them as well. All the hanging around the churches and pretending to go to church and care about church and falling asleep in church and getting up, Bible thumping. Yet you'll let people hear of you cussing on live streams and that. Why? Because as I said, you don't care. This is the image you want to portray to the public. You shouldn't want to be acting like this, even if Summer wasn't missing.
Right. Right.
Because you don't give a fuck.
And that's just it. They've done themselves no favors.
Exactly.
None.
I'm not about to believe you care about your children because you don't care about yourself.
Do you think they're doing anything today for Summer?
It'll be just to put on that channel. That's the official BS.
Yeah, that was just
they go buy a $2 cupcake, put a candle in it, talk in circles, make it seem like they care. Somebody sends them donation through Cash App, and then they go right back to doing whatever they were doing afterwards, which is getting turned up and cussing and fussing at each other.
Yeah. Oh, they'll probably be drunk cussing tonight somewhere, I'm sure. It's saying the same old mess. It's the same thing. They really should just have a seat. And
where do you see this case going? And allegedly we're supposed to get an update from Mr. Lawson. What do you think the update will be and when it will be and what will be said?
I honestly don't believe that we'll get an update until there is an arrest.
Okay.
I think that, they've learned.
You're not going to get the update that you want.
Oh, no, I believe when they get the update, it'll be exactly what I want. But I don't believe they're going to piecemeal anything for us along the way. Okay. I think that, they've learned very quickly that with the YouTube and everything else, and, there's one thing you have to admit, there's a hell of a lot of people that are interested in Summer's case. So number one, it's not going anywhere. Yeah. So everybody's looking for resolutions, but I do believe that they are aware that they cannot put out, we have a suspect and it's such and such. If anything, they may clear a few people. But I believe the update would be an arrest.
Okay.
Because I just don't see them taking a chance and putting anything out there unless it is clearing somebody. And I don't know, but which also makes me feel, and if that is the case, that means they're going to charge with nobody. Because we will know if she's found, because I would assume that would be like announced, which, I don't know, there may be a way that they can keep that under wraps, but most of the time it's like, say a body was found, such and such unidentified, waiting for it to be identified. Maybe they wouldn't come back and, confirm it with Summer, but I think that they'll end up trying to charge them without a body.
Okay.
I do. I don't think they'll get away with it. Yeah, but I will be highly surprised if it's not them.
Do you think they told law enforcement that they moved to Arkansas?
See, that's what I was going to say earlier. I'm not sure. I was under the impression that he would still be on some sort of probation whenever he got out of jail. So I'm not sure how that worked. If maybe, his time was served.
He got out last October of 22, right?
I believe so.
So that means the probation, if it was no, he got the time flat. That's what I think it was.
Okay, so then that makes sense.
It was from February to October, so it wasn't a full year. So he did all his time. So he didn't do probation because he violated. So that was his time served.
Okay. So yeah, I believe that. What was your question? Would he have to tell them he's moving? Well, and it's easy to say he's not. I think that's all BS too. Yeah, I believe that he's working out of town, but no, they haven't officially moved. I would say that they've officially moved when they have sold this house. I think they're working there.
I'm sure they were paying on the bills.
Yeah, no, there's probably no power up there on that hill.
None of that stuff. Did she had a Subaru when he got out? Or where is it now?
Oh, it's there. It was on the live that they did when they knocked on the door.
So I should keep the notes up unless it was already paid for.
I think it's paid for. I don't know how, but I believe it is.
So you can pay for a truck, 20-something thousand for a truck, but you can't.
All right.
Get the money and make your house better.
Because tell me how it was paid for while he was in jail.
Okay.
I don't know. I just have a feeling it was paid for.
First broke, a family member had bought them that truck, and I told myself, who's going to spend that kind of money on these regular ass people? For what reason?
I don't know. I always kind of wondered if, with all the kids and the stimulus checks and all that stuff, if maybe that's how it was bought. I don't know. But I don't know if it's paid for or not. I have no proof in that. But I know that she's still has it.
Bought that truck. I told myself that don't even make any sense.
She still has it as of yesterday, and it still has Tennessee tags on it. So I don't know. But yeah, I think it's easy to
watching the house for them.
Say that again.
If somebody's watching the house for them,
I would assume so, because I know how it is out here where I live. I don't know how many acres they have, but we have quite a bit. And I'm telling you, we have to mow once or twice a week. So if no one is mowing the yard up there, they would have to bring a freaking bush hog up there to get rid of all that grass.
And then you're gonna have vermin and wild animals.
Oh yeah, that house is probably running rampant with freaking mice and because when you do bush hog, they'll come out of the fields and things like that. So I mean, there may be someone. Actually, I heard somebody say yesterday that they believe that it was being mowed. Well, I'm sure we'll know because I'm sure there'll be people riding by there and mess. But I hope that they have somebody on the hill taking care of it. Maybe. Probably better than it was taken care of when someone lived there, to be honest. But yeah, I don't, in my mind, they haven't officially moved. That's just not how I feel. I think they're there working.
If they had any sense, they could sublet the house, rent it out while they're in Arkansas.
Who the hell?
Ask yourself what you're saying. You already answered it. Who? They live there.
Yeah.
So what did I just tell you? There's more Candaces and Dons running around. Somebody
that's true.
Somebody would gladly run up there and stay up in that house. Gladly run.
Ugh, I can't imagine. No.
Because you're not used to living like that.
No.
And you wouldn't settle for living like that.
Absolutely not. And then not knowing where that child is, there's no way I could be in that house. Never.
You're right. I'd be afraid to stay there myself.
No, never. And, I mean, I'm sure it doesn't cost any. I mean, they have the, taxes at the end of the year, but I'm sure that there's no mortgage on that house.
Oh, yeah. Only thing they're probably paying is the other taxes.
Yeah, so that's probably not costing them anything for it to sit there. But, if you are trying to make a move, my thing is put that house up for sale then and go on. And then okay, so how do you feel about that? If you had a missing child, would you be able to leave this? I mean, because it's not like they're in Georgia or North Carolina. They're in freaking Arkansas.
Well, it's more expensive to stay in a motel, so how long are they going to do that? I don't know if they should leave or not. I mean, there's not really nothing here for them if he can't work. You have to go to another area of Tennessee if you just still want to stay in Tennessee.
Yeah, and you can't make me believe he can't find a job. I mean, I know everybody knows about the Summer Wells case. I get that. But surprisingly, I wouldn't be surprised if he could find people that didn't. I'm sure that he could find a job. And I don't believe he had to go all the way to Arkansas to get a job.
That guy kept him working when he knew.
Yeah.
About the tabloids and the, you know what I'm saying, the being stalked and harassed and all that. So this is what I tell people. Just because I wouldn't do it don't mean somebody else won't do it. So somebody will live in that house. Somebody will hire them knowing all the stuff they've gone through with social media, possibly being suspects in the child's disappearance. Because that's the point. Everybody's different. What I would do, you would do.
I guess what I meant is I just don't know that I can move away from my home knowing my kid is still.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. But you're also, what did I say? You're not Ken and Donda, so you don't know about that little girl.
Well, and yeah, I'm sure they love going, when they do go to a store, grocery store, whatever. Everybody probably isn't looking at them crazy.
Yeah.
Because they don't know who they are.
Yeah. Well, I'm 2:47 in. Anything you want to add before I check out of here?
No, ma'am.
I'm going to bring y'all, probably not tonight, but maybe tomorrow. I'm going to bring you some breaking news. I've got them on my community board. Bill Cosby has some new allegations brought forward, lawsuits. I still need to bring you the Tupac update from his father, who believes the government killed him. And some other breaking news. I'm going to try to tie them all into a live stream no later than tomorrow. But I thank you for joining me, Brittany, as my guest. Brittany's from North Carolina. So thank you, Miss Brittany. I will talk to you a little bit later.
Okay, bye.
Okay, bye. All right. I want to thank all of you for your time. Once again, if you'd like to donate to this great network, $ Big Angie 129 Cash App. All stickers and chats are welcome during the live stream. Thank you for the kind donations, Miss Jenny. And those viewing, if you're new to this network, welcome. If you're not, please Subscribe, like, and share. Thank you all so much. Please go to my community page for breaking news and updates. I will also put a poll up pertaining to Summer Wells' disappearance, now marking 2 years to this date. And I do not know what happened to her. I do not know where she went missing from because I wasn't there. I do not know if all this information that we've been hearing from the parents in the past 2 years was a ruse to get rid of the child. What reason you'd have to get rid of a child? I always say don't ask that question because children are murdered by their parents every day. That is a national stat by the FBI, not Angela. Not innuendo, not a rumor, not rhetoric, not a myth. Most children are killed by their parents. So you can't be shocked in thinking that these people could have killed their kid. Why not kill her? It's a horrible question, but people do it every day. They don't like their child. They're mad at their child. They're angry with their child. But imagine killing her deliberately in the ultimate sacrifice you gave in killing her. You got your 3 boys taken from you. We would believe they were the favorites. See, we really don't know what was going on with these people. But the one thing I do know from watching them, they don't care about themselves. They've had ratchet behavior in the past with other children that they bore and jacked up relationships involving drugs, alcohol abuse, allegations of abuse, proven abuse. And now some of those children are grown. You don't hear anything about them. Now you got a new set of kids gone and one missing because they're the same people who never change their ways. And that's what happens when you don't try to change your life. There are many people out here who have committed horrible crimes as far as abuse, sexual abuse, rape, this and that. And maybe they've tried to change. Alcoholics, drug addicts. Some of them have changed. But the point is you have to want to change. And nobody can make you change. And a missing child and 3 children in state's care, you're assuming that will make a person change, but obviously not. So that goes back to assuming that possibly they know what happened to their child and they exacted the disappearance of the child, discardment of the child. Because they're just not nice people. And Mr. Lawson has told you they have no information to an abduction. And that's the one thing about an abduction. They're going to do diligent work to try to find anything to link to an abduction, such as fingerprints, video surveillance, tire marks. They can't come up with an outside party. All roads lead back to the people who were last with the child, and that would be the parents. Boy H, the grandmother, or whoever else was on the property or inside of the car with Candace. What happened to Summer Wells? Is she alive or deceased? Was she deliberately murdered at her location or another location, her home? Are her brothers involved in her disappearance? Was there an accident at that house between the parents and the children that was covered up by the parents? Where is this child? And I also meant to ask Brittany, did she believe all those searches that were conducted in Beech Creek, is it because they believe the child was discarded back in the Beech Creek community? Because there has to be a logical reason to keep searching in the same area. Tennessee is a vast state and it's a lone state. So to continuously search in one area of East Tennessee should tell you something. Somebody has information back in that location. And that's why they kept searching there. That's my deduction. And why would you bury a child close to where you sleep? That would be foolish. But you may look at it as, well, it's vast, it's wooded, lots of trees, high grass. They'll never find her. Because you always have to ask yourself, how was the child discarded if indeed she was? And there are many ways to discard a body, and you know this, especially a small person. There's a rendition of what the child may look like today at the age of 7. To me, she looks older in that sketch. Prayers for information pertaining to Summer Wells. Call the Hawkins County Sheriff's Department and or the TBI. I believe it's 1-800-TBI-FIND. Prayers for all missing children, missing persons. May there be justice in their disappearance, if indeed it's of a foul nature, circumstance, ending. Have a wonderful week. forgot to post a movie of the week. Forgive me. I will put one up now for the weekend. Be aware of your surroundings. If you see something, say something. Be a part of the solution and not the problem. Mind the children. One phone call may save a life. Thank you for your time. You've been listening to The Vault XL.